All right, so we're live. It is a little before 1 o'clock in the morning, Sunday morning. I believe today's the 27th. Heather, you're the first one here. Good to see you. Yes, today's the 27th. Good to see you, Heather. Hope you're well. Hope you've had a good week so far. What was I just saying? We're live. It's Sunday morning, early Sunday morning, almost 1 o'clock. I'm going to be going over. Apparently, this is trial week this week. We're also going to go over the missing person case of the week. Hey, Gail, good to see you. And then we're going to go over some of the stuff that's in the news. Necessary Evil's here. Good to see you, buddy. Lurkers everywhere. Hope everybody's having a good week. Hey, FarQ, how you doing? Good to see you. Dean Johnson's here, of course. Hey, buddy, good to see you. So let's get this thing going here. I'll play a little intro, and I'll be right back. Like I said, I hope everybody's doing well. Let's see this here. Let's go here, and I'll be right back. All right, so enough of that. I thought it was Disco Duck. Hold on. Hey, Paula, how are you? Good to see Paula in here. Gail Hurd is here. Yeah, I decided to change things up a little bit. What do you want for free, right? I don't know what to tell you. Uh, by a show of hands, how many people are, I don't know, tired of all of this shit here? Let's tell you, it's getting like, what's the word? Brain freeze from some of this trial shit that's going on because there's so many trials going on. A couple of them just got over though, so that's good news. But trying to keep up with all of this stuff is just, I mean, where do you find the time? But good to see everybody. So we'll start right away. Um, it's like one of those things you can't follow everything because there's just so much shit going on. It is insanity. You get, I mean, from Leilani Simon to the Delphi case to the incredibly crazy Sarah Boone case. It's just, oh my god, it's just so weird. But anyways, I digress. All right, let me. What I'm going to start with. Let's start. Let's start with the Delphi stuff and get that out of the way. Let me see here. I mean, I don't want to say get it out of the way, but we'll start with the Delphi stuff. Let's see here. Let's go. Let's do this one here first. Yeah, we'll start with this one here first, and then this is kind of like this is the day 7, and then we'll go back a little bit. Hold on a second here. Let me share this. Second here. Hope everybody's doing well. Um, Plus, I'm trying to keep up with the college games here. But what I was watching Colorado and Cincinnati, but Colorado's in the midst of destroying Cincinnati, so it's really not much of a game. All right, so this was done. I think this was done yesterday here, and this is kind of the bullet testimony here, and this was going. This is day 7. So let's play this here. This is coming from WTHR, and this is going to be fairly graphic, I think. Here, so let's play this.
Today marks the 7th day of the Delphi murders trial. Abby Williams.
Hey, Vid, how are you? Good to see you. Vid's here. I just liked one of your things online here. Vid is awesome. Vid is, unfortunately, like I said, I haven't been able to follow a lot of. I saw Southern Gal the other night, though. Southern Gal was on. Southern Gal was great. But I haven't been able. There's so much shit going on. But it's good to see Vid in here. Good to see you. She's got a great channel. Yeah, it's crazy. It's just this has been a bizarre week where you have so many trials going on. It's just crazy shit. So this is the case of Libby and Abby here, and this is the bullet found by the bodies here. So let's go here.
Williams and Libby German were murdered more than 7 years ago. This week, we hear from witnesses who saw Bridge Guy, believed to be the man captured on video by Libby German. We learned how police pulled that video from her phone with the infamous clip of what may be the killer's voice. We also learned that Richard Allen told police he was on the trail within days of the murders and cleared by police. And today we learned how investigators tied the so-called.
I try to go into these trials, especially some of these trials, without any judgment. Like years ago when I was a little younger, I used to live in the city, and I used to, when I had some free time, because I think I worked third. But I used to just walk into some of these courtrooms during the day, just because it's actually kind of funny. You go into these court proceedings, and people say the dumbest shit in court. But you learn a lot about law when you do that stuff. I mean, it's comical, but at the same time, it's very, very informative and entertaining. But I try to go out, get into these things with some sort of a level playing field, and that's what jurors will do. They'll go in here, and they know nothing about the case, right? Hopefully, you're hoping they know nothing about the case, and they're only listening to the evidence that's presented, at the case, right? That's what I try to do, because unfortunately, the jurors don't have the option of discussing this shit while they're. It's almost like they're locked in a room with nothing, and all they have is this information from the trial. So I try not to get too caught up in some of the back and forth. And I went in, I'm one of those people. In my opinion, I think he's fairly guilty. But I don't know if I had to put a barometer on it right now of. One thing you don't want is for them to get an acquittal here, because that'll be the worst possible thing. It'll just be a nightmare. It'll be awful.
Called Magic Bullet, found near Abby and Libby's bodies, to a gun found in Richard Allen's home. Thanks for inviting us in. This is your Delphi debrief here on WTHR+. This was day 7 of the Delphi murders trial. In a moment, we'll hear from our legal expert, Katie Jackson Lindsay. But first, our senior investigative reporter, Bob Siegel, and reporter Emily Longnecker are in Delphi for us. So Bob and Emily, walk us through this testimony today about this cartridge.
Yeah, today, Scott, jurors heard testimony that the state says puts Richard Allen squarely at the crime scene. Huge day, important day for the prosecution. And Emily, today, I mean, this is what the prosecution's been waiting to tell the jury about all along.
Yeah, about this cartridge found between the girls' bodies at the crime scene. One witness today, Bob, Melissa Oberg, the state's witness, testified for 7 hours. That speaks to the importance of her and this cartridge to
The one thing that sucks about this case is, and I was kind of on the fence with the whole cameras in the courtroom and shit. But it is interesting that, I mean, I think part of the appearance, jurors go by appearance a lot. I think what's what the suspect's doing, how he's reacting to things. They watch all of that shit. So it would be good to see, except for the drawings they have, you really can't tell some of the body language that's going on in the courtroom. So I wish I could see that, because that tells a lot, I think, especially with the lawyers, but mostly the suspect. Yeah, I believe me, I thought this, in my opinion, I thought, hey, PJ, how you doing? Good to see you. And I was on the fence. I thought it'd be kind of like a mistrial hung jury with this. I think there's, you can go in any chat and quiz 12 people, and you'll come out with at least two on the fence, 10 probably not. Because 9 times out of 10, juries will side with the prosecution no matter what. But I don't think they would have had enough to get a guilty verdict. I think they'd probably go to a mistrial. But the longer this case goes on here, I think, and I didn't think this at the beginning, but it's possible they could get a acquittal here.
the state's case, and then the defense on cross-examination questioning her, speaking to how important it is for them to attack the science of the testing that she did, that she says links this cartridge to Richard Allen's gun.
Right. You're seeing video.
One thing about the Delphi case I learned a really long time ago is just when you think you have everything figured it out, you just don't. If you're thinking one way, I'll bite you in the ass. Hey, True Crime. Hey, how you doing, buddy? It's Steve. Steve and his headlight thing. I was driving around the other night. Everybody seemed to have their headlights on high beams. It was so annoying. I can't stand that. But it's good to see Steven here for sure. But going back to what I was talking about, I remember all the way back the first year when they had Daniel Nations as a suspect, and everybody was on board that Daniel Nations was the guy that did this. Come to find out, they ruled him out, and I don't know how they ruled him out, but so just when you think you got a handle on what's going on in the Delphi case, it'll surprise you.
Video, the woman on the left, that is Melissa.
Put it this way, I don't think the bullet expert for the state did the state any favors. That's just my opinion.
Oberg, who testified for more than 7 hours today. She used to be a
That's the year I was born. It's 1967.
firearms examiner for the state of Indiana, for the state police. She was on the witness stand all day explaining how she tested a bullet cartridge that investigators found at the crime scene between Abby and Libby's bodies. Oberg told the jury how she tested a gun that police found in Allen's house while executing a search warrant. And today, the state tried to tie those two things together. Oberg told jurors how she compared the unfired bullet cartridge at the crime scene with 4 test bullets that she fired through Allen's gun in the lab. And using a powerful microscope,
Hey, the Hunt 532, good to see you. I do think the state has a lot more evidence in this case, but it's one of those things where it's probably evidence that they can't bring into trial. I think that they have some stuff, but it's just not admissible. That happens a lot. But I think this case could go either way right now. But there's plenty of time to go. Okay, so Osberg compared crime scene bullet. Okay, so this is that.
to inspect the markings on the ammunition. She concluded the bullet and the crime scene, the bullet at the crime scene did cycle through Allen's gun. Now, this latest evidence and testimony that the jury heard today, it's the state's way to directly put Richard Allen at the murder scene.
I can't. I mean, this is from. I think I don't know if this is from him recently, but the height to me is a big problem. This guy's not a very big guy at all, and that's why I'd like to see this whole proceeding, because I would have liked to see what the jurors thought when they first saw this guy. Because I mean, I'm trying not to make fun of the guy, but he's not a very big guy at all. So I don't know what's going on here with the jury and what they're thinking about that, especially after some of the witnesses testified. I mean, this guy's really short. I mean, I'm almost 5'10", and if this guy's 5'4", anybody that's like 5'7" would tower over this guy. I mean, it's not. I just can't reiterate that enough. That's really short.
While the ballistics evidence may be compelling, the defense team tried to undercut the credibility of that evidence. During cross-examination, attorney Brad Rosie told the jury that the analysis conducted by the state is considered controversial. He also highlighted that the state's analysis was based on a bullet at the crime scene that was not fired.
What I don't agree on is a lot of you hear, "Hey, Matahari, how are you doing?" There's some bomb evidence coming out at some point. I don't agree with this. A lot of people will say, "Well, how could one guy do this?" I've been saying this has been a lone wolf for a while. One person can do a lot of shit, especially if you have the right circumstances. Summer Wells too. Yeah, Summer Wells, and this case is just so. I've been following this case for so long. Hey, JCN, how you doing? JCN, good to see you. Well, hopefully it'll be over soon here. That's but it's just it's if for some reason there's an acquittal in this case, I will be so pissed.
While the test bullets in the lab were fired, and he got
because that means that it's over.
Oberg to admit that her analysis and conclusions
over in the bad way
presented to the jury are subjective. So, Emily, there was a lot packed into today's testimony. It was at times, shall we say, somewhat textbook, as far as it felt like we were going back to like a college science class and what was being presented. What did you read in the jury today? Because it was a kind of a challenging day to follow along
for all of us.
What did you see in the jury and how they took this?
The thing is, like, again, I say when these things all the time, I don't care. I have no problem with people's opinions, because that's what you do. You have opinions on these things here. And they get discussed a lot on social media and stuff like that. Unfortunately, the jury doesn't have that option. They basically go into a courtroom and get all of this information into their mind, and then they go basically into a square box, and then they come back out and get more information. So you never know what a jury's going to do. You just don't. But some of the questions that the jury's been asking, which is, I've never heard of that before, but some of the questions the jury's been asking has kind of led me more to the thought that I just don't think they're buying this. I just don't. Hopefully I'm wrong.
I saw some of the jurors taking notes, and some were not taking notes. Some were just listening. Some had big, thick folders, and some did not. When everything was all over at the end of the day, by then you had gone, I was still there, and the jury had 13 questions for Melissa Oberg, and some that really stuck out to me. They wanted to know, did the cartridge from the crime scene come from the same lot as the bullet found in that keepsake box in Richard Allen's house that was taken during the search warrant? You remember that from yesterday. They also wanted to know, they were asking very technical questions about handling a gun, cycling a gun. They wanted to know, when you cycle a gun, do you use the same force every time? And the force that you apply, can that change the markings on the gun? Does that make a difference? And Melissa Oberg saying, each time that you cycle a gun, it's not the same. You don't know.
A lot of times they have witness testimony is not the most reliable thing you're ever going to hear in a courtroom. But when it comes to a circumstantial case like this here, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They have technically 6 witnesses. And they're all basically saying the same thing. So it's not strange for me to think that if they're all kind of seeing the same thing as far as the stature, the build, the height, all of that stuff, the hair, that I don't think all of them can be wrong there. So, but who knows? I don't know.
Always use the same force, and yes, that can affect the markings that are put on it. One thing we also noted today about the jury, there was one juror missing, a man. We noticed that after lunch, and we were told from Judge Gall, we asked about that. It's an alternate, and we were told that that man had a family.
Hey, Miracle Hearts, how are you? Good to see you. Good to see Miracle Hearts in here. I also think that when they finally arrested him, search warrant, or they arrested him after the search warrant, I think, however that went. I think they expected to find a lot more in this house than they didn't.
Family emergency, and that is all she said.
But I've seen people get convicted for less, and I've seen people walk on more. So I don't know.
Instead of 16 jurors that we started with this morning and that we've had throughout the trial so far, this afternoon there were only 15 jurors that heard the testimony. So we don't know if that juror is being sent home and is not going to hear the rest of the testimony.
No.
And it is an alternate, we should point out.
Right.
So
yeah, I do agree with that. I mean, I'm the first person that tries to give law enforcement the benefit of the doubt. I mean, these cases are not easy to solve. I mean, these are tough and complicated things. I mean, it's not like people stand up and say, yes, I did it. But this case here, this is, they should have, I don't know, they should have just let ISP handle it, in my opinion.
Things were methodical today.
Yeah.
Very methodical. Yes. And this morning, I'll explain a little bit about how things got started. When Melissa Oberg first took the stand about 9:15 this morning, she spent an entire hour just explaining what tool mark exam.
I mean, in my opinion, this is just my opinion. If they would have indicted Keegan Klein 3 years ago. Say they would have indicted Keegan Klein with a grand jury. I guarantee you that they would have probably come back with a guilty in the grand jury, and they would have gone to court with Keegan Klein because there's enough evidence there, I think, for Keegan Klein to go before trial. And if that would have happened, you would have never heard of this guy, Richard Allen. I think they also had enough evidence on Keegan Klein to get a guilty verdict. That's just my opinion. And I don't think Keegan Klein had anything to do with this at all.
Examination is, what that means, how that is conducted inside a lab, and being able to take a look under a microscope at these tiny little marks on ammunition, and to be able to tell if bullets were fired from a certain gun, if they were cycled through a certain.
So Carroll County was the lead. They made that vehemently obvious. I mean, every time somebody asked what was going on, who was in the lead, because they had so many people involved in this, but every single time Carroll County would come out and say, no, Carroll County's the lead investigators. But in my opinion, I think what happened finally is ISP probably said, we're sending some people down there to go over the tips and find out what's going on, because I think at the end there, they were running out of leads. This case was going way cold until they found that tip. That's just my opinion.
Firearm
searching the Wabash River, that was like a last ditch effort to try to drum up something.
So she really got into details, established what tool market.
Hey, Lady Monet, good to see you. Good to see everybody in the chat this week. I hope everybody's doing well. It's getting cold here now. It's New England. It's I think maybe 30 degrees out here right now.
Analysis is, and then one of the moments that stood out to me from the from testimony today is she went over to a box and she did a demonstration for the jury to show them what it looks like when a bullet cycles through a gun. Because keep in mind, the bullet at the crime scene between Abby and Libby, it was a bullet cartridge. It was an unspent, an unfired bullet cartridge. Right. And she wanted the jury to understand how a bullet cycles through. Right. The gun that she pulled out of a box, it was the gun that belonged to Richard Allen, that they recovered from his home, and that they did this analysis on. So she cycled that for the jury. There was a video, lots of pictures, and there was a video. Basically, the jury got to take a little field trip to Germany, looking at a video that was pulled off of YouTube. We're showing that to you right now. Right. The jury got to see how a firearm like the Sig Sauer, that firearm that was taken from Richard Allen's home, that has been linked now to the bullet casing of the crime scene. They wanted the jury to see how those types of firearms are made, from the barrel to the frame, every part of the firearm. And
Dandy's here? Where's Dandy? Where's Dandy? Hey, Dandy, how are you? Good to see you. It's good to see you, Dandy. Yeah, it's cold out. It's very cold out. Definitely going to get a frost tonight for sure.
And then they really went into frame by frame on some of the pictures that they analyzed. The jury got to see those to understand how these markings, how they were able to determine that bullet casing at the crime scene matched. So they got to see, I'll just show you, this is kind of rudimentary here, but the jury got to see pictures, and they showed the edges of the bullet casing that was found at the crime scene and the edge of a bullet that Melissa Oberg fired through Richard Allen's gun. And she showed the jury that the images that they saw, they would take the two images from those two things, and you could see that these little markings on here from one, they would put them together. And
It's Jocelyn. Hey, Jocelyn, how are you? Good to see you. For those that don't know it, Lighting Their Way Home, PJ's got a great channel. And feel free to throw your channels in here if you got channels. Vid's got a great channel. Vid Inquiry's got a great channel. Who else here? Steve is in here. Steve's the best. I mean, Steve at True Crime Web is by far the best. Oh, I wanted to do a shout out today too to Duty Ron. I was on his channel the other night. Duty Ron's a great guy. I don't agree with him all the time, but he's in New Yorker, and he's battling some stuff right now. So I just wanted to, I put something in my community comment about him the other day. Paula Fitzhenry, I think, has a channel too. But shout out, thoughts go out to him for sure. You attended a party tonight? Awesome. Yeah, we got the pumpkins out here right now. So, but shout out goes out to Duty Ron. Duty Ron's one of those old New Yorkers. All right, so let's go. I actually think he's from Philly. I think he was born. I'm not sure. It's one of them.
they would show how they seemed to really pretty much match up. And that is how she explained to the jury that her conclusion was that they actually, one was the same as the other, or that I should say that firearm that Richard Allen had in his home is the one that cycled the bullet at the crime scene. So I thought that was interesting testimony today. And you got to hear also, you know, really the defense then push back, and the cross-examination lasted longer. It actually lasted longer than the state's presentation this morning.
Yeah, the defense really attacked the science behind this testing, the science that was used. They called it a controversial science. And they asked Melissa Oberg, they said, look, Brad Rosie, there's an ongoing debate in your industry about firearm identification as a science in its truest sense. And Melissa Oberg said, yes, there is. Brad Rosie said, there was never a time when you can say that bullet came from that gun, meaning Richard Allen's gun. And she said, I cannot say it to the exclusion of all others. They continued to push back. She also said, I can say there is sufficient agreement in the identification.
Yeah, I don't know why they would put her on the stand if she's going to say that. Like, that's just,
process. In other words, sufficient agreement. And Brad Rosie really went off after that term sufficient. And she said, look, in firearms identification, we use sufficient different than regular folks use sufficient.
These defense lawyers are good. Prosecution is good too, but they're really, and these are questions coming from, you know, doesn't look good, but I may be wrong. I don't know.
Sufficient in our world means enough. That is not the same as how a firearms identification expert uses.
And Brad Rosie was basically pointing out, hey, you know, the people on the jury, the people sitting here in the courtroom, you know, when we hear sufficient, that just means good enough, right? And she said, no, that's not what it means.
See, my opinion has always been the same thing with this case. I personally, like, if you put a gun to my head, I'm about 75-80%. I think Richard Allen is guilty. But this is a trial here, so you know, my opinion really doesn't matter. It just doesn't. There's 12 people's opinion that matters, maybe 13, because I think one of the jurors left the other day. I'm not sure, but I just don't know if they're going to be able to get 12 people to agree. I just don't. But what the hell do I know? Welcome back, buddy. All right.
Got
in
it.
her industry.
I think the biggest point, though, the defense tried to make is they said, look, when you tested Richard Allen's gun, you cycled a bullet through, you cycled a cartridge through 6 times, and then you fired a bullet out of it 4 times. And the times that it matches up, or that you say that it matches up, are the times that you fired the bullet,
Yes.
not that you cycled through the bullet.
I mean, Richard Allen is not just short. He's a small guy too. He's not like I've known some people. I used to do electrical work, and I used to work with a guy named we used to call him Mighty Mouse, but you didn't want to call him Mighty Mouse to his face because he'd bust your face open. I mean, he was, I don't think he was 5'4", but he was 5'5", but he was 5'5" wide too. He was he'd shake your hand and take your hand off. He was a pretty strong guy, but this guy here, he's not just short. He's not big at all.
Like the bullet at the crime scene. The bullet at the crime scene, we know, is unspent, has not been fired, has been cycled through. And Brad Rosie was pointing out and had her talk about, look, the times that it matches the most are when you fired bullets out of Richard Allen's gun, not when you cycled through.
And we heard him say to the jury during opening statements that you're basically going to hear how the state's expert who tested this gun, when they just cycled the
Right.
bullet through Richard Allen's gun, which is basically the bullet at the crime scene was
Right.
just cycled through.
Inconclusive.
You're going to find out that that's inconclusive and they didn't have the information that they wanted
Right.
because it didn't match. Then they went a step further and they fired it from the gun, which is not what happened to the
bullet
gun
at the crime scene.
yeah,
Right.
to the bullet at the crime scene. So it was an interesting day, kind of a chess match back and forth, Scott, that we could see playing out with the state really trying to impress on the jury just how important this was and how it's linked to Richard Allen. And then the defense saying, not so fast. There's some questions
Right.
about the science that are involved.
Yeah, I just think with Kohlberger is a little different. They have something tangible, right? They have the murder. I mean, they don't have the murder weapon, but they know that the girls were unalived by a knife, right? There's a sheath there, right? We know. I mean, everybody knows it's not. There's no other weapon. There's no gun. There's no. I mean, and there's so-called touch DNA on the sheath. So there's something tangible there. To me, the gun is. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I don't think that's. It would be different if they had, like we thought. I mean, I thought, when they had the video that Libby took, that he's walking towards her, pulling the gun out, and you could see the gun, and you could see. I don't know if they have that. I haven't seen that. So, I mean, to me, the gun is. I mean, it's Indiana. Everybody carries guns there. It's it's. I don't know.
It's not an exact science. In the industry questions this. There are
Right.
people, there are experts in your industry, in the firearms identification industry, that question this too. Respected folks.
Exactly. So Scott, it was
Hey, Grandma Sherry, how are you? Good to see you. I thought I gave you a wrench last week. Yeah, that's what I mean. They have the. I mean, even the corner in this case. I'm going to probably play that a little bit too. I don't think the corner did any favors either.
was a lot of back and forth, and it'll be interesting to see what the jury makes of that and what really landed for them.
All right, Bob and Emily, we'll get back to you just in a few minutes to talk a little bit more about the testimony that came in today. We want to go ahead and bring in to the studio Kitty Jackson Lindsay.
Yeah, I like her. She's really good. Because this one here, she was a prosecutor too, and now I think she's a defense attorney. But I'm not saying the lawyers that I listen to are all, I don't know, biased, but this one here, I trust her a little bit too.
Lindsay. She is our legal expert, a former
I mean, I don't trust her. I don't trust any lawyer, but she seems to be speaking I don't want to say unbiased, but she seems to have some pretty good knowledge here.
criminal defense, former deputy prosecutor and current criminal defense attorney. And she's been with us every day of this trial that is now here at day 7. Based on what the testimony that Emily and Bob were describing, what are your thoughts?
Well, it's hard to tell how this jury is processing this evidence.
And I definitely don't think they were taken from the area and then brought back. I could be wrong though. I don't know. I just don't. But I don't. That's to me. That's why I keep saying some of the stuff that the prosecution tried keeping out of this case, I think, is actually hurting them. Because I think if the defense goes in there with this Odin theory, then I think that they would have had a problem. But I definitely don't think they were. I mean, there's got to be, if that's the case, if they were brought somewhere and brought back, then there's got to be more than, I would say, 3 or 4 people.
Evidence. We've heard a lot of really technical things today. One witness for an entire day is a lot of evidence to be delivered and a lot of evidence to be processed by one witness. But we can also really understand why they would have put this much time into this witness, because it is the piece of evidence. It is the forensic analysis that really ties Richard Allen to this crime. And so it was intentional. It was important to spend that amount of time on it, but it's hard to tell whether or not the jury is processing it and whether it's doing any good for the state, especially considering that the jury had so many questions of their own at the end of it.
If you've not been following this trial, there's been no evidence that the girls were shot. The evidence.
Is that a real box cutter though? Is that one of those plastic ones, lady? I work at a South Indiana CVS. None of us carry box cutters. LA found a box cutter with his CVS name tag and work things in a basket. Hey, Mustang 1965. Good to see you. Mustang's here. You know who I haven't seen in a while is Charlotte. I hope she's doing well. I hope Southern Gal's doing well too. Southern Gal's got a great channel. If anybody doesn't know who Southern Gal is by now, she's got a great channel. I thought he was going to let her go. I mean, this case here is just I don't know. It's just the whole crime scene to me is baffling. Just is. Just doesn't make any sense to me, my opinion. But I don't know much. I just don't. I do think one of the girls probably tried running away. I mean, that would be my thought. And he probably went. Whoever did probably went after her and grabbed her back. So I think, my opinion, I think one was unalived, and then the other one tried to get out, and that's just me.
Evidence that's been presented at the jury through 1 week is that the girls' throats were slashed. And so this unspent bullet, this one that cycled through a gun that the state believes came from a gun in Richard Allen's house. So, this unspent and firing bullet and the comparison and trying to draw a conclusion, does the jury say, oh, there was a bullet found there and it somehow is connected to Richard Allen's? Yes, he's guilty. Or do they say, no, that's not enough. I'm not seeing any other DNA, not seeing his clothing, not seeing some other things there?
I would think it would be really hard for the jury to find guilt just based on that one piece of evidence, because you highlighted a really good point. They're not suggesting that the method of murder in this case was a shooting. And so not only does the state have the challenge of really convincing this jury that this particular bullet was related to the gun in Richard Allen's house based on the challenges that we saw to that science, they also have to explain to this jury why that bullet is even relevant.
Yeah, usually what happens in the cold, if you get water on you, it'll just dew up overnight, and then once the sun comes up in the morning, it'll get wet again. I don't know what the temperature was the next day, but yeah, I'm with Dandy. Juries are tough. Juries, you never know. It's a flip of the coin, in my opinion. Um, like I said, this is a circumstantial case, and it's just my opinion. I think in this case here, the witness statements are very, very important. And I think this week here is important for the prosecution, because if for some reason they don't get the confessions to ring a bell here, I don't know what's going to happen. Because confessions I've been saying this before, law enforcement and prisons and jails, they go through great lengths to get confessions. I mean, it's especially if they don't have a lot of evidence. I mean, they will literally get somebody in there and inform it. I've heard it before on cases where they have people that are in the jail, and they'll barter with them to try to get. They did it with one serial killer. I forget his name. But confessions are tough. Juries don't like confessions. They just don't. Unless it's like a confession where it's, Miss Scarlett in the library with the lead pipe. I mean, it's obviously not a good confession, but a lot of times it's better to have some sort of a confession from interrogation too. But confessions are not good, so we'll see. I think that's their best evidence. I just do. If they don't win that one, I don't know what's going to happen.
Considering that's not how the girls died. And so I don't think that the state has done that for the jury yet.
And there's snitches in prison and jail that'll do anything. That's all they're going to do is ask them. Yeah, I'll do it. All right, let's get back.
So at this point, I think that they must be taking in this evidence and still saying, okay, well, you haven't met your burden.
What do you make about the defense going after how the bullets, the testing methods and that kind of thing? What's your thoughts on that?
I think it's really important to do that because with forensic science, it can be challenging for the defense, because when a jury hears from an expert, hears that they have this specialized knowledge, you just want to believe that. You want to believe that professionals in a field know what they're talking about and it's solid. And so when it's not solid and it's something that the state is really hanging their hat on, we saw Brad Rosie do exactly what he should be doing. And that is letting this jury know that, yes, this is an expert, this is a professional, but this is not foolproof science. There are studies out there that have actually challenged this. And this is something that is, at least in my experience, is not even common. In all of my experience in 16 years of trying violent crimes and trying cases that involve shootings, I've never seen this science before where they are comparing a unfired cartridge to anything, much less to a fired cartridge, to make an identification.
All right, let's bring Emily and Bob back in. So you feel like the prosecution was successful in reaching this jury, guys?
That's a really good question, Scott. Emily and I were in the courtroom, and there were times that I was sitting there trying to follow what they were saying. So I would have to imagine the jury might have been as well, because one of the things we haven't mentioned is almost all references to the ammunition and to the firearms that were in question today, they were exhibit numbers, is how the deputy prosecutor, Jim Luttrell, he's a very experienced litigator. I was surprised.
I know. I mean, this, depending on the confessions, right? But all I need is one to stick, right? If there's 60 confessions, right? All I need, I've seen it before. Confessions are like gold to the prosecution. They just are, usually. I've seen so many cases where I've just been following a case in Hawaii where these two guys confessed to doing the crime. I think this was like 20 years earlier, 20 years ago. They didn't have anything to do with the crime. The guy that did it, they got some DNA. They got the Hawaii Innocent Project involved, and they had nothing to do with it. There's the famous one about what about Bob, old man Bob on I think it's Dateline, where they had confessions, didn't have anything to do with it. They just were in the interrogation room for 17 hours, and they figured if they just said something, they'd go home, and they had nothing to do with it. It's just, I mean, that's why DNA is so important, because not only does it convict people, it kind of exonerates people too at the same time. I mean, you can't. Yeah, I just want to hear them, because if they don't have that, I don't know.
Surprised that throughout hours of questioning and testimony with the witness today,
Yeah.
he was just using, for the most part, exhibit numbers, which made things really confusing.
But the defense did the same thing on cross. They did, and that was hard to follow. Number 15. Okay,
Right.
is that what is that? Is that the gun? Is it the cartridge? Is that
It is, and the jury's going to have to kind of put all those
Yeah.
exhibit numbers, and there's hundreds of exhibits we should
Hundreds.
point out. They're going to have to make sense of all that. But just one example: early in the day, when they pulled out the gun to be able to cycle a bullet through the gun for the jury, when Melissa Oberg did that, it was not clear to a lot of the journalists in the room, and I'm assuming possibly to the jury, possibly to the other people in the gallery, that the actual gun they were using
was Richard?
was Richard Allen's gun, the one that they seized from his home, because they just kept referring to it by
Its number.
Yeah, by its exhibit
Right.
number. So I thought this was just maybe a gun that they had gotten from the crime lab or something. It wasn't until much later that we understood that was actually the gun that was in Richard Allen's home.
And even more confusing, the state has one number for it.
Hello, Mama Duck. How are you? Good to see you. Mama Duck's here. It's good to see everybody in the chat. Like I said, if you have channels or know people who have really good channels, put them in the chat. Like I said, for the next couple of weeks or so, we're going to be going over some of the, I don't want to say more popular cases, but, more of the mainstream media cases here. But 9 times out of 10, I try to cover some of the stuff that don't get a lot of attention. We'll be going through the missing person case of the week here shortly too. But there's a lot of great creators out there. Some of them come in the chat. True Crime Web's here. PJ is here. Lighting the Way Home is here. And there's a lot of other good channels in the chat. Vid Inquiries is here. Anytime we can get the word out to get things more attention, the better.
For it. The defense has letters for it. So you're trying to follow.
Yeah,
in that way.
And throughout the day, also point out that they referenced all these exhibit numbers for a lot of other firearms that Melissa Oberg testified about testing.
Yes.
Lots of other bullets and bullet cartridges.
Yes.
So there were all of these different. One of the reasons it got confusing is because they kept introducing all these other pieces of ammunition and firearms that we didn't.
The other thing I don't trust is the mainstream media in these cases, because that's what sucks about this case, because you're relying on them and some of the other people in there to take notes the right way. And a lot of people, like if I had to go to court and take notes, I'd probably have to kill myself. But you have to rely on this here. There isn't a pool reporter in there. So, it's just, that's why, I've kind of changed my mind with the whole camera in the courtroom thing. I think they at least needed some audio or something in this here, or video, because, now you got to rely on these people. And my God,
really, they never did explain where they came from.
Well, Melissa Oberg talked about they tested one gun. I think it was a Glock. 2 days after, I think no, February 17th. She said that was they rolled
Yes.
that out right away. Right.
Is Steve on the road? Are you on the road, buddy? Are you going to North Carolina anytime soon?
Right, because it's a
Yes.
right, different caliber. And then a few days later, they tested 2 more guns, and then some years
What the hell is going on here?
later, in August of 2022, they pulled some guns from the river.
Yes.
That was part of this investigation.
And
Uh,
they didn't explain to the jury why they were introducing. Now these are other pieces of ammunition and other firearms that in one way or another they were testing as part of this case.
right.
But in the jury's mind now, I mean, you're just tracking all these exhibit numbers,
Right.
all these other.
Yes, I did say North Carolina. If you go to North Carolina and you're anywhere around the Smoky Mountains, if you wouldn't mind taking a walk on the listen to me on the trail there where Trenny Gibson went missing there, I'd like to get a couple of pictures out there because I'll probably be going down through there next June maybe. So
Different guns
And they really never came back and explained what those were. Yeah, so I thought that was confusing. And also, perhaps the most confusing thing to me is Jim Luttrell never came back and did a summary for the jury to explain what they had just heard from their star witness. Specifically, when he asked Melissa Oberg, "What is your conclusion?" And let's put this quote up on the screen for our viewers to see. He said, "What's your conclusion?" And she said, "My conclusion is I identified 314 as having cycled cartridge item 16." Now, there's another way that you could have said that, or that the deputy prosecutor could have summarized for the jury what they just heard. That could have been what you just heard.
What you just told us.
Yeah, what you
What
just
you really
heard,
just said.
members of the jury, is that the bullet cartridge at the crime scene cycled through
Richard Allen's
gun. But they didn't say that. And actually, Scott, I'm curious to send it back to you for a moment, and Katie, to find out if that surprises her as well, and what a jury would.
All right, I do want to go to this one here a little bit. Let's do this here. This might be a little graphic here.
It is day 5 of the Delphi murders trial. Today, we heard from a witness on the scene, the doctor who performed the autopsies on Abby Williams and Libby German, and key testimony about Libby's cell phone. Thanks for inviting us in. This is our Delphi debrief on WTHR Plus. In a moment, our legal analyst, Katie Jackson Lindsay, will be breaking down the developments for you. But first, senior investigative reporter Bob Siegel and Emily Longnecker spent today in court in Delphi. Bob and Emily, this was a really intense day all the way around, wasn't it?
It was, Scott, and we.
First thing, the other thing I want to say is, it's always about the victims, right? It's like just this whole case, Abby and Libby, it's all about them and the victims' families. It just sucks so bad. This has got to be awful, 7.5 years of just nothing but pain. It's an awful thing. These poor kids, the poor families. You just hope for the best. That's all. This has got to be killing them. It's just terrible.
We had another literal front row seat to be able to take in the testimony today. And Emily, this was a tense, it was an emotional, it was a fascinating day of court today, day 5.
Yeah, I would say you listened to more emotional testimony in the morning. I was hearing more of the technical testimony about the cell phone extraction from Libby's phone.
Yeah, very different types. We heard from witnesses today, and we heard really 3 very different types of testimony.
So this one was done 3 days ago. So this one had the autopsy details from the medical examiner, Libby's cell phone data, and then confrontation over the witness statements.
Testimony today, and we want to bring you up to speed on what it is that the jury heard. So let's give you a quick overview of that. Jurors saw very graphic photos as we learned details of the victims' autopsies today. We also got new details about data collected from Libby German's cell phone and a tense courtroom confrontation between a witness and the defense team. Let's begin with the autopsies. The coroner who performed those autopsies.
Just an absolute freaking animal, just this is horrible.
Autopsies the day after Abby and Libby were murdered showed jurors the actual wounds that the girls had. The photos showed one large gaping hole.
Vid Inquiries is leaving. Good to see you, Vid Inquiries. Have a great night. Have a great weekend. Always good to see you in here. She's got a great channel. I watch it as much as I possibly can. Very entertaining. Awesome channel.
Hole on the side of Abby's neck that severed her jugular vein. Libby had 3 large deep.
I do have a question for Steve. Do you think that they were attacked from behind or not? Do you think this was something that was done from behind or not?
Holes that severed both her jugular and 2 carotid arteries. Dr. Roland Kaur explained how that would result in tremendous blood loss, a drop in blood.
Again, this is going to be kind of triggering here, so if you want to step out until this is over, that's fine. About 5 minutes probably.
Blood pressure and heart rate, eventually leading to a loss of consciousness, with the girls dying he estimated, within 5 to 10 minutes. He told jurors that he could not be exact as far as a time of death, but he said that the bodies looked consistent during the autopsies with victims who would have died the afternoon before, and that is certainly the timeline.
So, I mean, there was a theory rolling around years ago. I mean, there's been so many rumors, right? I think this actually, one of them came from the Erskine text, I think, that one of the girls survived until early in the morning. But obviously that's not true. But again, they don't have, I don't think they were able to actually get a time of TOD, I should say.
Of what the state says happened in this case. Other things that we discovered during the autopsy today, Dr. Kaur told jurors there were no.
I mean, these poor kids, they got I remember hearing about this case, when it came out. I think it was Good Morning America or something. Fresh with the Evansdale murder, too. So I thought they'd solve this within a month. I didn't see why, but it's not easy.
No outward signs of sexual assault on either of the girls. No signs of defensive wounds to suggest that there was a
Ooh.
struggle. He did note during the autopsy very faint.
Who, Heather? What person? Uh, $20-year-old Delmar Wilson. Look into that. I'm gonna do a missing person case tonight at some point. You blocked somebody? Who'd you block? Thank you. A creepy perv? I didn't see him. Did I see him? What the hell am I doing? Was his name Steve? No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. Oh. Yeah, obviously, if somebody's not behaving in here, just get them out of here. Like I said, I don't have a problem with people's opinions. But if you just have somebody in here being nothing but a creeper, then just get rid of them. Absolutely. I wasn't sure if it was someone coming over from another channel. Is that the guy typing in French? Yeah. On if the offender fed on the terror, he didn't want them to watch. This whole thing is just so, it's just so, I'm not buying the SA thing. I'm just not. I guess it could have been, but he wanted to see you naked. NAKEAD. I don't even think I can say that. Unclothed. Thank you for getting whoever got rid of him. Thank you.
Lines across Abby's face, and he said that could suggest that something might have been placed over her mouth, perhaps.
If somebody attacks you from the front with something, you're probably going to try to protect yourself, I would think. So I don't know, it's so weird. Like, where are the defensive wounds or problems? And it's just, I don't know, so weird. Two kids, two of them.
Perhaps duct tape, but he was quick to point out there was no residue of duct tape or anything else. So he wasn't really sure about that, but he did point out some lines there. Dr. Kaur said some of the abrasions on Libby's neck could be consistent with the slide on the side of a box cutter that engages the blade. But during cross-examination, he admitted that he did not know if a box cutter was what caused the girl's fatal.
It's not good. The defense is doing a really good on cross.
Injuries, and he also said that he could not determine whether there was one sharp instrument or multiple sharp instruments that caused these really graphic wounds. And I've got to tell you, the pictures, they were brutal. They were just brutal to look at in court today. I was sitting right by the jurors, and the juror seated in seat number 6, he barely looked at these photos at all when they were up on the big screen that is inside the courtroom. He really.
I do apologize for that if anybody got offended in here from that guy. I think he was in here last week too. Not sure.
Put his head down in his hands like this. His face got bright red. He couldn't bring himself to look at the photos for more than just a quick second or two. He'd glance up and he very quickly would look back down again. This was tough.
I think this is the juror that has consistently done that when we have seen these photos, although many of them have expressed difficulty, but I think he is the one that I know the most.
He's the one who has struggled the most, and we do know from jury selection, he works around kids. He's a transportation supervisor, and he works around kids, and you can just tell this is just gut wrenching. And some of the jurors are able to stay composed with a stone face, and I can't blame them. I mean,
No.
I found myself turning away at times
Same.
too.
Same.
And you know,
Same.
the whole idea here is, you know, this is important evidence. The jurors need to understand what happened
How it
and the
happened.
injuries,
Mm.
how all this played out. But extremely difficult pictures and images for the jury, Scott, to see in the courtroom today.
All right, so I think I'm going to stop that there. I'll keep following this thing here because I want to get to other stuff here. Just doesn't make any sense. I mean, none of this, the whole, I mean, everything makes sense up to the crime scene, and then everything just, hey, Charlotte, how are you? Good to see you. Charlotte's in here. I was just talking about you. I hope you're well. To me, the crime scene makes no sense whatsoever. I just don't, it just doesn't, nothing makes sense out there. Just make any sense. But what are you going to do? Nothing you can do about it. All right, so let's go to because I do want to get to the missing person case of the week. Let's do Sarah Boone first, and then we'll go to the Elijah Lewis thing, because I do want to touch on that quickly, because she got this. Like I said, this has been trial week from hell here. So this is Sarah Boone. She's going to get the verdict. Hold on a second. This came up yesterday when I was driving around all over the place, so I couldn't. I was going to come on live this morning about this, or yesterday morning, but I didn't. I mean, this was a no-brainer, right? I mean, this is. I think, what did they take? 20 minutes to come back with a verdict on this?
I see everybody nodding their heads. Okay. State, are we ready to bring in our jury?
Yes, Your Honor.
Defense, are we ready to bring in our jury?
Yes, Judge.
All right, let's go ahead and bring in our jury. Everyone will remain seated.
What is going on with my internet tonight? Oh, that was them. Okay. But they still have the suitcase in there. It's right there. So funny. Photo of the loon. I don't know what's going on with my internet tonight.
State, do you recognize our jury?
Yes, Your Honor.
Defense, do you recognize our jury? All right, members of the jury, you may be seated. Thank you. Members of our jury, good evening. I understand that you've come to a verdict in this case.
Yes.
If you could please hand the verdict form to the deputy, please.
Yeah, she should have definitely taken the plea deal. I just don't think this woman's normal. I don't think she's right in the head. I just don't. And I think this whole time she thought she was going to get away with this. I just do.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, if you could please publish the verdict.
In the Circuit Court of the Ninth Judicial Circuit and in Orange County, Florida, case number 2020 CF 2603, the state of Florida versus Sarah Boone. Verdict. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of murder in the second degree as charged in the information. So say we all dated at Orlando, Orange County, Florida, on this 25th day of October 2024. The form has been signed by the board.
Madam Clerk, please poll our jury.
Juror seat number 1, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes, it is.
Juror seat number
I mean, could you imagine having a nice little dinner out with the wife, at like a Shoney's or a Waffle House, and in walks Steve and starts arresting people? Oh, Charlotte's an awesome person. Charlotte is just a great person.
Number 2, is this your true and correct verdict? Yes, it is. Juror seat number 3, is this your
Didn't Brian Koberger say something like that to some girl? Something about you have great hips or something like that. For great pickup line there, buddy.
true
Yes,
and
it
correct
is.
verdict? Juror seat number 4, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror seat number 5, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror seat number 6, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes, ma'am.
Members of our jury, again, I want to thank you for your time.
He looks like, watch this again. This is so, she looks like so disgusted.
Correct verdict.
Yes, ma'am.
Members of our jury, again, I want to thank you for your time, your sacrifice.
She looks like she's so, I mean, it's not funny. It's sad. Childbirthing hips. Yeah, that's what a dumbass. Some people, man. How did he ever graduate? It's, I don't know. It's do they just give those things away? Right? I mean, Brian Kober's just an idiot.
And your attention in this matter. I know that we spent almost 2 weeks together and it was not taken lightly. And I really appreciate the time and the effort and the sacrifice that you put into this case. I want to advise you now of your final instruction. Members, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to thank you for your time and your consideration in this case.
I mean, what she had nine lawyers. Did she have 9? All right, let's, what am I doing here?
I also wish to advise you of some very special privileges enjoyed by jurors. No juror can ever be required to talk about the discussions that occurred in the jury room except by court order. For many centuries, our society has relied upon juries for consideration of difficult cases. We have recognized for hundreds of years that a jury's deliberations, discussions, and votes should remain their private affair as long as they wish it. Therefore, the law gives you a unique privilege not to speak about the jury's work. Although you are at liberty to speak to anyone about your deliberations, you are also at liberty to refuse to speak to anyone. A request to discuss either your verdict or your deliberations may come from those who are.
All right, so we do have a little bit of good news here because I think our next door neighbor here's dog is having the puppies. So if you hear some noise, so we got puppies coming, and that dog right there is the father. All right, so let's go to something else here. I've seen enough of this woman for a long time. Hold on. Let's go to the Elijah Lewis case. This is, we went over this a few weeks ago here. This person here, the mother of Elijah Lewis, a 5-year-old boy whose body was found in Massachusetts, was sentenced Friday to 50 years to life in prison for a second-degree unaliving. And her name, I'm going to butcher this name again, Daniela Dauphinus, sentencing hearing, but she was, this is the sentencing here for her. This piece of dog crap here. Just horrible. We went through this last couple weeks ago where the judge was asking her if she agreed to all of the stipulations for pleading guilty here. But this is her here. Oop, let me share it.
Journalism, for your civility, for the way that you presented yourself at all times, in this case, including today. It was very important that I be educated as to the criminal behavior in this case, be educated as to the individual life of Ms. Dolphinace, and be educated as to the law as it relates to the sentencing goals and punishment, deterrence, and rehabilitation, both in writing and in the courtroom today. You all did an excellent job with that. I keep calling you Colonel when your name is Durant. Yes, because I know someone else named that, so I apologize. I'm just realizing that. I've done it twice, so my apologies. You know your name. I know your name. Just a mistake. I apologize to that. I'd like to start off with Elijah. For the last 3 years, over 3 years now, I've come to know him, and especially in the beginnings of this sentencing, in terms of the notice of intent to plea and all of the filings, I've been educated as to who this little boy was. You've seen it. It was brought up on the screen. This is how people should remember Elijah. I've seen other photos of this. Some of the law enforcement in this room have seen Elijah in completely different circumstances. And I appreciate the trauma that's inflicted when you see that. The attorneys have seen it, for instance, and I certainly have seen it. But that picture of him staring out at us is a picture of innocence. It's a picture, photograph of a defenseless, vulnerable, dependent little guy who is smiling, and you can see the life in him. You can see the love in that little boy's face. It's a photograph of love. It's a photograph of a 5-year-old in the back of a stroller who deserves nothing but love. The one thing he didn't deserve is hate. And hate rained down.
This is just so awful. There's just too many of these cases that are going on right now. It's just, it makes you angry. It's just why, like this and that other case there we're going to go over to later. Just sucks.
Upon him, unfortunately. As said in the impact statements and described by the various family members, he was a little boy full of love, full of life, charm, a rambunctious little guy with a spirit and the biggest of smiles. He's got one on his face in Exhibit 1. My hope, our hope, I hope it's all our prayer now, is that, Elijah, you're in heavenly places. Now where all your tears are wiped away. Your wound.
Here's a pickup line for you, Dean. If you were a triangle, you would be an acute one.
From your life on this earth are healed. There is no more suffering for Elijah. Just peace and love. He deserves it. My hope and prayer is that he now has it, because he didn't, especially during the last year of his life. To the law enforcement,
I hope Mrs. Steve's doing well, buddy. All right, here we go.
people who are in this room, quite a few of you. We appreciate all of your investigative work, especially in a tragic case like this, for your dedication and your commitment, not just to justice, but to Elijah. That's really what you were working for. You did everything in your power, with all your talent, with all your experience, to find that little boy. You went from New Hampshire to New York to Massachusetts and other areas, and you found him. The circumstances in which you found him created, I'm sure, just trauma and abject horror. I've seen the photographs. But you and the dogs did your work. And you found this little boy in a shallow grave in Abington, Massachusetts, a place he should have never visited. And the pictures of that little boy in that October are staying with me for the rest of my life. I've done many homicides in my career. I've done 2 specific homicides, one involving Elijah and one involving Brielle, a little 3-year-old girl at the time. Sat through a 2-week trial in Brielle's case. These are the cases that stay with you as a judge the rest of your life.
That's why I get your hats off to law enforcement and anybody involved in this stuff here. It's stuff that you don't ever probably unsee. This stuff here is just absolutely, it's just awful. It's terrible. Seeing stuff like this you'll never be the same.
There are things I have seen at that shallow grave and during the autopsy that will impact me and many others who are sitting out in this audience for the rest of our lives. So I really appreciate what the law enforcement officers of this state and other states did to find not only justice in this case, but Elijah. To the family and the community out there, it's pretty clear from these victim impact statements and from the nature of this crime that there's been a ripple effect of impact throughout the family, friends, and our community for this brutal death of a little 5-year-old boy. My thanks.
Right. So I can't handle the sniffling anymore. I don't know why they put that mic next to that person that's sniffling. It's just, anyway, she was convicted 50 years to life in prison for 2nd-degree unaliving. So she's had her day in court. All right, so let's go. I want to do this first. I want to go to the missing person case of the week, because this is what we do here. So let's I'm going to read this first here. So no, it's not me. I just can't stand that sniffling. That was driving me absolutely berserko. They had to put the mic right next to the person that's sniffling like that. All right. That's what happens when you have, really bad audio in a really bad courthouse. All right. So this is going to be the missing person case of the week. This is the disappearance of Tiffany Whitten. And I'm going over this one here because this is one of the reasons why I got involved in this horrible business to begin with. These things are not easy to talk about. These are just brutal unalivings. It's just animals, pieces of dog shit, literally just don't belong in society, right? But this person here may not have been living the greatest lifestyle in the world, but she's still missing, and there still needs to be some resolution here in this case. So the early morning hours of September 13th, 2013, Tiffany Whitten, she was born January 30th. Here's all her information here. Of Powder Springs, Georgia, United States, was observed apparently shoplifting by loss prevention officers at a Walmart in nearby Marietta. They gathered to confront her at the store's exit, but after a brief struggle, she broke free and fled. And she hasn't been seen since. So she, I don't know when this was done. So she was born January 30, 1987. Disappeared September 13, 2013. Age 26. I don't know when this was done. Marietta, Georgia, United States. I'll try to pull that up on a map. Actually, I can do it right here. Missing for 11 years, a month and 13 days. 5'3". She has a little bit of a criminal history here. Use of drug-related items, theft by taking, 4.5 months in prison, and she was actually on parole at the time. So she has 2 children, and her mother is Lisa Daniels. So, all right, let's go to this here, and then we'll do a little bit more reading. Let's here. On a second here. I'm going to stop screen. So every week I try to go through one of these cases here. This is the latest one this week here. And it's from News Nation here. And they go through a few other cases first before they get to the actual case that we're going to go over. So here we go.
Is no closer to knowing what happened to her. Casey was vacationing in the Bahamas. They're on a yoga retreat when she vanished June 19th. Today is her 42nd birthday. Her mom telling us she has concerns about this ongoing search and how her daughter's disappearance is being handled.
My idea is
I'm going to have to look into this case again, too, because I don't know what's going on with this case. We covered this one. The person that went missing down there, so I'll have to look into this.
really saddens me when I think about it. I feel like my child had 2 strikes against her when she went over there to that yoga retreat. And one was that she's Black, and the other is that she's transgender.
Taylor's phone was found in about 50 feet of water, but police have not been able to retrieve any data from it so far. We have several possible breaks in the case of a missing cowboy from Wyoming. Chance Engelbert vanished 5 years ago while he was...
This actual video was done 3 months ago. So some of these cases they're talking about, I don't know if they've been updated or not.
Visiting his in-laws in Gering, Nebraska. We thought this surveillance image of Chance walking along a road was the last time he was seen the night he was vanished, but new tips now lead investigators believe Chance may have made a stop at a convenience store about 2 miles away. I spoke with the private investigator Ryan Daniel about these latest developments, along with some possible witnesses he desperately wants to speak to. I want to start with this convenience store and a possible sighting of Chance just a few miles away from where he was seen on that surveillance video. Tell me more about what happened that night and the authenticity of that lead.
Well, this lead that came from the convenience store clerk actually surfaced the first week after Chance went missing. Don't know why it may have got overlooked, but
Oh, this was July 5th, 2024 here.
going back through a lot of evidence and a lot of witness interviews, it kept coming up about the convenience store clerk that allegedly saw Chance. We were focused on the WTT because that's the area that his phone last pinged, but come to find out, this clerk was not working at the WT. He was actually working at a convenience store about 2 blocks north of.
All right, I just fast forwarded that so we can get to the case here.
And if you have any information that can help in the ongoing
I'll have to look into this too.
search for Chance Engelbert, you can contact the police department in Gering, Nebraska. Now to this week's featured missing case, and it is a mystery in Marietta, Georgia. It's a suburb of Atlanta, and where Tiffany Witten was last seen. Tiffany's family is also, just like Chance's, desperate for answers into what happened to this young mother on a September morning in 2013. Her family telling us the one person who may hold the answers is due to get out of prison this fall.
We miss you, Tiffany.
Miss you, Tiffany.
We think of you all the time. Love you.
A balloon launch in 2014 marking the 1-year anniversary of when Tiffany Whitten vanished. It's been nearly another 10 years since that launch, and Tiffany has still not been found. The last known sighting of her is on this Walmart security footage, where she was caught high on drugs, shoplifting about $20 worth of items with her boyfriend, Ashley Caudle, at 2 a.m. on September 13th, 2013.
I know that she had put a couple of inexpensive items, I think, in her purse, which was weird because they had money with them. They actually paid for some items. They waited for them to go through the checkout before they actually grabbed her.
She passed the point of sale and got close to the door. The loss prevention people stepped out. They kind of grabbed her purse, and then she ran out of her flip-flops and takes off into the night.
Tiffany's boyfriend, Ashley, said that after Tiffany ran off, he began to look for her.
According to some people, Carl called some people to get them to come there to the Walmart and the IHOP, and they said he asked them to do sort of a cursory look for her.
Ashley also went to a nearby IHOP where Tiffany had worked, asking people if they'd seen her.
Somebody said, why don't you just call her? And he said, well, I can't because I have her phone. I know at one point I was told by Marietta Police that she had accepted a couple of friend requests after that date. And how could she have done that? She had no phone and no computer and no place to live. So I don't know how she would have responded to friend requests after that date. So I feel like whoever had her phone did that.
Those accepted friend requests and other parts of the story investigators have learned about that night have left them with many questions still unanswered.
No doubt, Ashley Caudle is the primary person of interest. He was agitated and angry about this whole situation at the Walmart. That was clearly evident from the Walmart video. The working theory is that whatever answers are out there, Ashley Caudle holds them. And he has not been forthcoming with us about things.
He had said over and over that he would take a lie detector test, but when he was given the opportunity to do that, he refused. The communication that I've had with him was mainly saying to him, look, I just want to know where she is. I just want that peace, to know that she's at peace. And you can give me that. But so far, he has not.
Caudle has been in prison for the last decade for peddling meth. He's due to be released in September. Meanwhile, Tiffany's family says the last 11 years has been a daily fight for answers. They say in the beginning it felt difficult to get the attention of investigators because Tiffany was an adult.
Okay, so hold on a second here. Sorry, I'm having problems with the internet tonight. But let's take a drive here. I think this is the Walmart right here. Because it says Walmart near Marietta, Georgia. So I believe this is the Walmart. But there might be another, but they said Super Center, right? I know what to do. Right, let's go back to that. But I think that was the Walmart there. Right there. Directions. It's right there. So, okay, so there's the IHOP right there. I bet you that place is really good. So they said this is where she left, and something about this IHOP here. I'll try to do a better job with this. map here. But this is a busy place here, so got to be cameras all over the place here. All right, so let's get back to the video. Hold on a second.
With an addiction to heroin and meth.
Everybody kind of wrote her off because she was an addict, and addiction is a disease that you fight every day. And she had the biggest heart. She would give you the shirt off her back. Like, she was a great person, and people tend to not see that. And so that was kind of the hard part for me. I feel like she wasn't taken that seriously.
Tiffany's family says some of the hardest parts of her being gone now are the milestones that have been missed, like her.
Hold on a second. I want to. The donkey's a real ass. That's funny. Oh. All right. So, at the time, Whitten had a criminal record, was jobless, addicted to heroin, great crystal meth, in a difficult relationship with her boyfriend, Ashley Cottle, who was at the Walmart with her. Cottle noted her failure to return that night, going to a nearby restaurant that must have been the IHOP where she had previously worked, to look for her, but did not contact the family or police. Whitten's mother, who was used to her frequent and sometimes lengthy unexplained absences, went to the police. So January 2014. So that's a long time. The investigation is continuing, but police say new leads come regularly. None of them have proven useful due to Cottle's criminal history. So Cottle's got a criminal history too. The boyfriend, false statements. He's probably the main person of interest. Okay, so let's go back to the video and I'll read more of this a little later. Let's see here. Can I stop that here? I just think I find these cases because, these are the cases that don't go. None of these people get any attention at all because of their lifestyle. But these cases here bother me. Look at this.
Her daughter Addie's high school graduation.
Like when I first started getting into these cases here, that's all I did was do the missing, especially SWs, people that really nobody seems to care about. This is a Tiffany Whitten. She has a
this year.
I think she's actually let's see here. I think I just read this. Daniels. Her last name is actually Daniels, but she changed her name. I think, or I think I read she did a different birth name or whatever. All right, so here we go.
It's just hard to like know that she wasn't there, like to think about that she wasn't there to see it. She would have been really proud. Yeah, and that's what I think about. She would have been proud. It just sucks that she couldn't have been there.
Because Addie was just 6 when her mom vanished, she's lost those imprints of our loved ones we treasure in our minds.
I wish I just had memories because I don't have any memories really.
My intelligent mind tells me she's not still alive. In my heart, I want to believe that she is. it's a huge conflict for me, and I just need to know, because I feel like I've lived the last 11 years just in limbo. In the long run, all that matters to me is knowing either she's here on earth and she's happy and healthy, or she's.
Okay, so Tiffany Witten was born to Lisa Daniels in 1987. She and Witten's father divorced soon afterwards, so the guy probably just ran off. I can't be sure about that, though. Daniels recalls her as a happy-go-lucky and rambunctious during her early childhood in Kennesaw, Georgia, so right next to there. She also saw signs of her daughter's later issues. When Witten was 2, Daniels told Esquire in 2016, "I'd find things in her toy box that didn't belong to her." Really? Her daughter said that someone at daycare had given her the toys. So she told her someone had given her the toys. Can you actually steal something at 2 years old? Is that how old she was? Yeah, when Witten was 2. So I'm just reading this, so I'm not going to share this because it's. Daniels stated her daughter became a more accomplished liar as she got older. Wow. Friends like that, who needs enemies? All right, let's go.
She's in heaven, and I just need to know one of those two things.
Is there multiple Walmarts there though?
A mother and a family trying to piece together these mysterious dots. Joining me now is Tiffany's mom, Lisa Daniels. Lisa, I know that you were in excruciating pain. It's difficult to look back at the journey of this investigation. How are you holding up?
Well, it's one day at a time. I know it sounds cliche, but it is. There's not a day that goes by that she's not at the forefront of my mind.
I mean, it's just like the Rex Heuermann thing, the Gilgo 4, that's why I call those guys heroes over there, because that doesn't happen a lot where you have, that much interest in a case when it comes to people who, don't live the necessarily life that everybody else does. Once saw a group of kids 6 years old and younger raid a neighbor's house, stealing all their toys. A 2-year-old though? Did 2-year-olds steal? Or did they just, I don't know. I don't even know. All 2-year-olds steal. I know when I think I was 5 years old, I tried to take a pack of gum out of my mom's pocketbook. I forgot where we were. My father basically took my freaking hand off. So that didn't happen again.
Mind and just wanting to know what happened, where she is, and it's difficult. It's very difficult to live that every day.
Tell us a little bit about Tiffany, your fondest memories of your daughter, what you want to share with people to let us all know a little bit more about her.
Well, I think my fondest memory of her is just her sense of humor, which her daughter definitely inherited. She has a great sense of humor. She's very sweet.
They almost look identical, these two.
She had just a special gift with special needs kids and elderly people that was something that she really loved. And it was something.
Is that Georgia?
That I had always hoped would.
Did she marry again? Was there another guy in the picture? Who's that guy?
Lead her to some sort of, counseling or some sort of assisting special needs people or elderly people because she just had such a gift and just such a zest for life. Obviously, she made a lot of mistakes, but I tell you, it's
This is very typical right here. I'm just going to read this. As she reached adulthood, Witten grew more rebellious. She dropped out of high school during her sophomore year, putting an end to her early ambitions to become a veterinarian. Witten relinquished for adoption a child from teenage pregnancy and would later say that she was permanently affected by the experience. So she had a child, and then she put it up for adoption. That'll do it. By 2008, she had another child, a daughter, and started using drugs. She became addicted first to Oxycontin and was caught shoplifting a pair of flip-flops from a local Walmart. So she had issues, no doubt. It's just sad, just very, very sad.
she had just a ton of potential. So that makes it even more difficult to know what she could have been.
Well, it sounds like she had a really big heart. And I think one thing about our Missing series, Lisa, is it doesn't matter the mistakes people made. They are somebody who is cared about, and you will not stop in your search to find her. And it's not our mistakes that define us. But she had some challenges. Tell me about those challenges and how that gives you some clues into the efforts to try to look.
The population of Metro Atlanta supports dozens of Walmarts, right? The Walmart in question here is just below the Big Chicken, a local landmark. Okay. Your mom chased you through the house with a dish soap because, oh yeah, that FU word. Yeah, absolutely. That'll do it too.
Locator.
Yeah, she definitely did have some challenges, some, mental health issues, which I believe is really what led her into a life of addiction. And I do honestly feel like she wanted to leave that life. She wanted to turn things around. But what I've learned since all this started is just how difficult it is when you become addicted to these drugs, especially heroin, methamphetamine. It is just.
It doesn't take much to get involved in that stuff. The 6 to 4-year-olds couldn't be charged to their ages. The mere fact parents didn't know they were outrating neighbors. Yeah. Yep. I'll tell you one thing though. There's a lot of stuff that I did that my parents didn't know about either. I don't know if I was doing that stuff at 4 and 6 though. At least I didn't think they knew.
A very difficult journey from there to try to turn your life around. The percentages of people who are able to turn it around are.
Me and my father had a pretty good idea of how our relationship was going to go at like 10, I think. Of course, back then, you could literally beat the shit out of somebody. So it's like, we got it a lot. My brother got it more than I did. So, I mean, he was pretty much an idiot.
Pretty low to my understanding. So, it's heartbreaking, not just for her. There's a lot of.
I think my brother actually asked for it. He just did things just to, exacerbate the problem.
People that live in that world, and it's just hard.
Is that Georgia? That can't be Georgia. That looks like, where is this?
Heartbreaking because I know a lot of those.
I can't see that. That's a gun.
People, I know all of those people have people in their lives who love them and want to see them turn it around. And I believe that she really did want to, but once those drugs take hold, that's a difficult thing to do.
Yeah, it takes a dangerous grip on a
Toddler
person's
gangs and
life.
stuff.
What did being a mom?
Those toddler gangs are tough. Anybody want a puppy? Your sister kept you in trouble. Steve is awesome. Steve is such a great guy. He's, can't say enough about Steve and Mrs. Steve and what they do. Trying to get answers for people. It's, no, none of those. This, I don't know who this is. Is this the grandfather here? Because apparently if this is her daughter, the one that's missing, the father took off way before this. So this must be the grandfather here.
Mean to your daughter, Lisa?
Oh my gosh. She loves Addie. And I can remember her first birthday. She had a special dress made for her and a special cake made for her. And, it was always such a big deal. And I know Addie doesn't have a lot of memories of her because she was so young, but, and that's sad to me because Addie truly loved her. And I think that was.
So I'll read a little bit more of this. She became, okay, I read that already. Intimately, she worked as a waitress or bartender on Facebook. She described herself as a Hooters waitress living in Kennesaw. I'm probably butchering that name too. In March 2011, Whitten, then living in North Georgia, town of Dalton, along with several others, was arrested and charged after a home invasion. So these were not good people. She told police that the victim had stole $60 from her earlier that evening, and she was merely trying to get it back. I'm sure. It was a payment for drugs and failed. So this is not good here. After her release, Whitten was able to stay off drugs and get a job waiting tables. Okay, so she worked at the International House of Pancakes. So the boyfriend and her's relationship was, their friend said, characterized by frequent arguments. Police were called to one particularly loud dispute when the couple lived at a motel, but no arrests were made.
One reason why she did want to get herself clean and turn herself around, because she wanted to be her mommy. And, it just breaks my heart that didn't happen for her and that it didn't happen for us.
Kennesaw, hold on a second. Steve's awesome. Kennesaw Mountain Civil War Park. That's got to be it. Hold on a second. The battlefield. Hold on a second. Just south of Atlanta.
For Addie, because I know how much Addie needs.
So hold on a second. This place right here. Yes, that's it. That's the place. That's got to be Atlanta right there. What town is that? Is that Atlanta? I've never been to Atlanta, so I mean I've been outside of Atlanta, but never to Lana. It looks like a nice place. I'm trying to find that exact. It's not important. I just wanted to get reference to that. All right, so let me go back to this video here. Did I share that? Yeah.
Needs that connection.
Hey, Luis, how are you? Good to see you. Luis is here. Good to see you, Luis.
And it's not the same, being raised by your grandparents. It's not the same.
Well, she is still very blessed. I can see how big of a heart you have and that heart, same in your daughter. One of the challenges, Lisa, that I know you all have faced in your search for your daughter that is common in a lot of the missing cases that we cover is the struggle to get the attention on the case that you believe it deserves, the investigation, right, to continue to pursue it, especially after all of these years. I want to share with folks who are watching a clip of an interview we did with Joni Moeller. She is a former investigator who worked on Tiffany's case. Here's that for our audience at home.
It's a case that is close to my heart because I did get to see, the devastation that it causes behind the scenes that most people don't see. They see what happens on the news and they see, what happens with the victim, but they don't always see the impact that it has on the rest of the family.
And clearly on law enforcement as well. Lisa, what does it mean to you to hear those words from Joni, who was part of the investigation as you all continue together to search for answers?
Yeah, Joni she has a special place in my heart because she was really the first person.
Always good to see Luis Cuevas in here. Good to see you, Luis. Thank you for coming in. It's good to see everybody here. Not easy to stay up this late.
Person who believed me that there's something wrong here. She hasn't disappeared because she wants to be gone. There's definitely something wrong, and a lot of other people had written her off, and Joni didn't do that.
I don't know. You can't. I don't know. This one here is a little weird. She might have run off. You never know. She might have been being, how do I put this the right way without getting struck here? Abused by the boyfriend, maybe, and she took off. I don't know.
And she put her heart and soul, like she said, into this investigation. And, we continue to work together to try to educate law enforcement about missing people. And regardless of background, just like you said, somebody out there loves that person. And so we do try to speak to law enforcement whenever possible. We speak.
What a good looking kid. I mean, she had everything going for her here.
The criminal justice classes at Kennesaw State University. We've spoken to some even seasoned law enforcement people at the police academy in a class that she started.
I hope you have a good night, Grandma Sherry. Have a great weekend. You're so awesome. Thank you for coming in. You want another doggy? I don't know if I can get a dog to England. I know I can get a dog to England, but I don't know how quick. I'll send one to you, though. They're going to be Rottweiler Shepherd mix.
Missing persons class. And so we do try to educate because they have their training, obviously. Nobody can tell them that that's wrong, but you have to keep your mind open, and you have to know that when a family member is standing in front of you and saying, look, here's the reasons why I believe that something has happened to my loved one. You've got to open your ears and you've got to open your mind and you've got to listen. And Joni did that. Yeah. So I'm forever grateful to her.
They gotta have some. I would think that they'd have some video stuff but they probably just don't have enough.
Yeah, she heard you. It means so much. Do you have a theory about what you believe happened, Lisa? We heard you a moment ago say that you're holding out hope that Tiffany is somewhere out there, but there's a reality to all of this. How do you walk that delicate balance of what you know and trying to understand what you still don't?
Well, I don't let my mind go to the place.
See, this image to me is kind of weird.
Gotta
Not
open
weird,
your ears
but
and you gotta
hold on
open
a
your
second.
mind and you gotta listen. And Johnny did that.
Yeah.
So I'm forever grateful to her.
Yeah, she heard you. It means so much. Do you have a theory about what you believe happened, Lisa? We heard you a moment ago say that you're holding out hope that Tiffany is somewhere out there, but there's a reality to all of this. How do you walk that delicate balance of what you know and
See, she looks really happy right here. Like, some of these other pictures that she's in, she's kind of, giving like a fake kind of smile or just a half smile. But she looks, I mean, that's what I'm saying. She definitely looks happy here in this setting. So maybe she just took off and decided, I could live a better life. I don't know. She looks very happy here.
and trying to understand what you still don't?
Well, I don't let my mind go to the place that a lot of.
Steve leaving? Steve's taking off. Good night, buddy. Steve's awesome. I'm pretty sure everybody on this in this channel pretty much knows who Steve is, but if you don't, Steve has a great channel. He has a great organization. He does way too much, but we thank him for that. Him and Mrs. Steve and the whole crew over there. I'll be over there at some point once some of these things start to slow down. But Steve's awesome. Have a great weekend, buddy. Don't work too much. And if you go to North Carolina, anywhere near the Smoky Mountains, if you could take a walk before I get down there, where the hell, the Andrew Balds Trail, get some pictures for me. Just kidding.
People have said, well, maybe she was sex trafficked or maybe this.
Part of that whole Trenny Gibson case that I've been following relentlessly here.
Maybe that I just will not let my mind go there. I do know that if she is still on this earth, that she's not in a place where she can reach out to the people who love her, because she would. She would never be gone for this long. She would never leave her family. I mean,
I don't know about that. Of all the, especially the last couple of cases that I covered, if anyone would just disappear on voluntarily, this probably might fit that bill, but who knows?
When you talk about the milestones that she's missed, I mean, not only that, the death of her grandmother, who she just adored, she missed, and she's missed her sister's wedding, her daughter's graduation, the birth of her first niece, just so many things. And I know that she would not, she just wouldn't stay away. So, like I said, my intelligent mind says that she's no longer on this earth. And I would prefer to believe that than to believe that she's being held somewhere against her will. I would rather believe that she's not on this earth than to think that.
Lisa, my heart goes out to you and your family. Thank you for giving us a little bit of your time. And thank you from the bottom of my heart for sharing part of who Tiffany is to you and what you miss most about her with us and our audience. Praying for you, and we'll stay in touch, okay?
Thanks, Maureen. We really appreciate you covering her case too. Thanks so much.
God bless you. All right. I want to bring in Jesse Evans now, an investigator on this case. It is an ongoing investigation. Jesse, thank you for joining us. You're a former Cobb County prosecutor. Tell me what stands out to you a decade now into Tiffany's disappearance, and how you take a next successful step in understanding what happened to her.
think it's just the lack of answers. My heart breaks every time I see my friend Lisa talking about the mysterious loss of her daughter. And, there are people out there that know information about this case. And I think the biggest takeaway that maybe your viewers can take from this is that we're listening. There are people such as myself, Johnny Muller, who have dedicated significant years of time.
Yeah, the Cowboys are terrible. The Cowboys are they beat my team now, so anybody can beat my team this year. It's Cowboys have problems though, big time.
I'm investigating this case, and I know answers are out there. It's just a matter of people being willing to come forward and give some of those.
Let's talk about the boyfriend for a moment. I mentioned he'll be getting out of prison here in the next few months. Ashley Caudle, what more can you share about questions you have and others have for him once he's released from prison?
I strongly believe that Ashley Caudle is probably the key to solving the disappearance of Tiffany Witten based on.
I don't know about that. I mean, if I had to get a percentage on that, I wouldn't put a very high percentage of him being involved, but I don't know.
The years of investigation I've spent working on the case. This is not a very savory character. He's got a long criminal history. He's spent the past decade in prison for drug trafficking, and just a very bad character, not somebody that you would want to have dating a relative of yours. And with that comes some baggage as well. So, he was living in a kind of dark underworld, and sometimes it's hard to get people associated with folks like Ashley Caudle to cooperate and give the information that we know and believe is out there.
See, these cases really bother me because, it's still a human being. I know she didn't do everything perfect in life like everybody else does. But thank you for that, Gail. They still need some answers. It just sucks. I might do a part 2 on this case here.
What is the most compelling evidence
So they do have.
so far in this case, Jesse, whether it's digital, whether it's the surveillance video that we're seeing now from the Walmart?
That's her right there. That's the Walmart security guard there. She was stealing stuff. That's the bag there.
What's the best clue that you have to go on?
My thing is she probably didn't want to go back to jail, right?
I think the biggest clue is what you're seeing.
Because she was on parole, so
right now, it's that surveillance video from the Walmart. As with any cold case, any missing persons case, you want to kind of start with a known and then do consecutive circles out from there. Our last known, for lack of a better term, is this Walmart video where we can visibly see that Tiffany is alive and well. Looks like she might be struggling from some addictive habits and things like that. But otherwise, this is sort of the glimpse of time that we need to start with and then move outwardly to figure out what happened before that, what happened afterward.
I wonder if they've questioned these guys here too.
So who is she with? Who was Ashley with? And what sort of...
This guy here.
that we need to start with and then move outwardly.
Who's this guy?
To figure out what happened before that, what happened afterward. So who is she with? Who was Ashley with? And what sort of insight can we glean from the timeline that begins, in my mind, with September 13th, 2013 and the shoplifting event?
And does it?
That must be the boyfriend right there.
Become more difficult to glean leads?
I wonder if that's going to be the boyfriend.
The more time that passes?
Absolutely. I'm a seasoned homicide and cold case investigator. I've dedicated my entire career to those topics, and time is not the ally of law enforcement. We start all of our investigations thinking, hey, this case will be solved tomorrow.
Have a great night, Gail. It's always good to have you here in the chat. Gail is an awesome person. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate you and all the time you spend in here. I hope you have a great weekend. Stay safe.
Or next week or whatever. And when cases go cold, missing persons cases go cold, time is not the friend of law enforcement. Now it's almost like you're relying on chance discoveries of something to advance your investigation. And that's not something.
I wonder who that guy is.
That we feel very confident about. We are constantly trying to generate leads.
He comes back in, so he leaves. She gets approached by the security guards. He leaves it and he comes back. Is that the boyfriend? Is this the same guy that was behind her in the supermarket? I mean, in Walmart? Does that look like the same guy?
Leads and not just be reactionary and hope that leads fall in our lap.
Yeah.
See, this is odd here.
The last thing a family like Tiffany's wants is for the case to go cold. What is your message, not just to her family, but others of missing cases that we cover?
It's the same guy. It doesn't look like the same guy. This guy looks much taller.
To continue to try and prioritize the case in law enforcement.
Guy's been doing coke, for sure.
It's mind when we know police have a lot on their plate and resources are strapped.
I think there's two lessons that we can take, maybe three. The first lesson is take these cases seriously from a law enforcement.
This can't be the same guy. Maybe it is.
Perspective. It's easy to look at a case like this at the beginning and say, oh, well, she's got a drug history and she's not been living a very healthy life, and or she'll.
I'm going to have to slow that down. Yeah, I can't tell either. It's bizarre.
Turn up, and that's sort of a mistake, and it's a mistake that many in law enforcement have fallen upon. I think the second lesson is be careful of domestic history and who your domestic partner is. Ashley Caudill is not somebody you want to be in a relationship with based on the history that I'm aware of. And third and finally, the point that I would leave with you is know that there are family members out there. Tiffany Whitten is just not a name and a pretty picture. She had a mom, she had a sister, she had a daughter, and there are people that are continue to grieve today. These cases are sometimes even more sad than your typical homicide case, because at least with a normal homicide case, if there is such a thing, ideally you've identified an offender, you've made an arrest, and at least there'll be answers and accountability. Here you have a situation that's even more devastating because there's so many unknowns.
Yeah, and there's pain in that unknown. Finally, Jesse, do you believe Tiffany's case is solvable?
Absolutely. I've always believed that this case is solvable. There is evidence that's out there. I think that the right people need to share the right information, and they've been unwilling to do so to date. And I believe this case can be solved. And
it doesn't look like this same shirt, though. This guy's got a ton of tattoos. It looks like tattoos here. Unless I'm blind too. This is
it's just going to take people.
Yeah, maybe.
Keeping this case in their attention, in their forefront, and knowing that we are listening.
Yeah. Well, we thank you for the work that you're doing, Jesse Evans.
It might be. I don't see this, though. I don't know what's on this shirt here.
Thank you. I agree. The more people that see this and share it, we together can find the answers this family so deserves. I appreciate your time, sir, and your work on this. If you have any information on how we can help Tiffany and her family find justice in this case, you can contact the Marietta Police Department. That, again, is in Georgia. This is where you come in.
All right, so if you have any information or know anything, this is Tiffany Whitten. This is her case. I might do a part 2 next week. Not sure. Marietta Police Department, 770-794-2366. This was done 3 months ago, so she's still missing. Brittany T a couple weeks ago here. All right, so let's go. I want a couple more things. I do want to get into this here really quick. Hold on, let me stop this here. Another one of those cases. Yeah, I can't see that shirt. Doesn't look the same, but it could be just the angle. I'm not sure. Gail is awesome. We love Gail. Gail is great. Hold on 1 second here. Would you want to do this? Because we covered this last week too. The missing woman over there and the real estate agent there. This is the we did this. Remember, this is part of Nancy Grace's thing here. The search for luxury realtor moms end at landfill, and the husband's friend dumped a gun? Question mark. So I don't know if you guys know about this case, but the search for missing realtor Suzanne Clark Simpson has hit a dead end after 4 days at the San Antonio landfill. They were searching a landfill. Remember that? Meanwhile, her husband, Brad, behind bars, is facing federal gun charges. They've arrested the husband on gun charges. They're not saying he's a suspect yet, but they do have him in custody. I think because they were seen arguing outside their house, and then she just went missing. They've been searching. They're searching a landfill last week, and they didn't find anything there. And he's apparently been uncooperative, is what they've been saying. But that's usually what they say when they grab a lawyer. You know, when they lawyer up, they're saying they're not being cooperative. So here's this.
Brad Simpson gets a call because his wife Suzanne is now almost 30 minutes late picking up their kindergartner.
She was very involved in her children's lives.
Not one time has she left her children alone.
No one has heard from Suzanne and isn't answering her phone.
What makes it most concerning is that it's not characteristic of her.
Hi, I'm Suzanne. I've been in real estate for 13 years. This listing that is now pending has been a great transaction because I was personally friends with the buyers and the sellers.
We are devastated by the loss of my sister. I am here to be a voice for my sister, and the search will continue, and we will not stop until we find her.
First, you were seeing Suzanne herself doing an ad lib for a property she had just sold. Then you saw her sister.
I did see that. What was that about? I did see that. That was I saw that they so the Anglo-Saxon, right? England. We'll go over that again soon here. I'd love to get you up here, Charlotte, and talk about some old history here on this stuff here. I love history. That's one of my old pastime. Especially the old English monarchy, the Russian czars and stuff like that. I do a lot of history on that stuff there.
From our friends at KABB Fox, San Antonio. Wow. So much is happening right now in the search for this mom. A missing mom, a luxury realtor, as she has been called, is missing. How did it go down? This, as we learned, in the last days, a massive landfill search has been called off. Control room, could I please see a shot of Suzanne Clark Simpson? Because this is very difficult for me to grasp, and I have overseen many landfill searches. That this beautiful mom, living, breathing, full of vitality, full of love for her children, you could see that just beaming out of her in that short little clip we played for you. She's in front of a sold sign. It's hard for me to reconcile that this woman could be found dead, decaying, decomposing, and a dump full of rotting food, stinky smells, old furniture, refuse, used diapers. Her, this gorgeous mom. That's what we know right now. The landfill search has been called off. Cadets, I believe 50 of them, were in hazmat outfits conducting a landfill search, and that is not easy, especially in Texas temperatures. Complete hazmat outfits. That search, after multiple days, ended. Again, thank you for being with us as we continue to help in the search for Suzanne. And right off the top, I want to give you a tip line number. This is a very active search. LE Law Enforcement needs our help. That number, 210-209-2701. Repeat, 210-209-2701. This is the direct line to Detective Hector Ruiz. Please help us find this mom. As we go to air tonight, we're learning a lot. With me, an all-star panel to make sense of what we know right now. But first, straight out to Zachary Taylor Wright, trending digital reporter, mysanantonio.com. Zach, thank you so much for being with us. Zach, what can you tell me? I'm going to move to the news search. They're away from the landfill, aka dump. The thought of this mom lying out in a dump is, I don't have the right word for it. It's very disturbing, to say the least. The search has moved to another area, but I've got to ask you about this. What about hubby, the husband, friend, now suspect in getting rid of a weapon? What?
Absolutely. So new charges were filed this week. James Cotter was arrested for, according to arrest warrant affidavit that we received, agreeing to attempt to hide a weapon on Brad Simpson's behalf. Brad Simpson himself is also facing 2 additional charges related to this attempt, one for tampering with evidence.
Okay, Zach, slow down. Now,
Okay.
see, if I were putting you on the witness stand, I would have gone through this with you. No compound sentences. You're a journalist. You know what that means. So let's take each fact one at a time. Because guess who's on with me today? Zachary Taylor Wright, Jeff Horney, longtime friend of not only Suzanne, but also Brad. Right now, we're talking about a different friend of the husband only. Now, slow it down. Tell me again. I want the jury to hear exactly what you're saying. Okay, go. What?
So James Cotter, a friend of Brad Simpson and former business partner in several different endeavors, has been arrested on a third-degree felony charge for tampering with evidence. It appears,
Okay, right there. When you say friend, you mean business friend? Like they worked together? Is that how he's a friend?
Correct. They were business partners in Cotter's father's company, and then they've also had a couple of other business endeavors together.
So they go way back, business-wise. Okay, he has been arrested for what?
Tampering with evidence. He allegedly attempted to hide
Tampering with evidence. He allegedly tried to hide or what?
He allegedly attempted to hide a weapon on behalf of Brad Simpson. An arrest warrant affidavit shows that communications between the two, with Brad frantically asking for his help.
Oh, okay. With me, an all-star panel. Hold on, Zach. Don't move. Zach Taylor Wright joining us from mysanantonio.com. Brian Fitzgibbons is with us. Don't move, Jeff Horney. I'm coming straight to you. Brian Fitzgibbons is with us, Director of Operations, USPA Nationwide Security, who leads a team of investigators specializing in locating missing people. Brian, you heard what Zach just said. Let's analyze it right there before we go one step further. They find the friend, Cotter, okay? They find the...
That'd be so awesome, Charlotte. Yeah, that was around 1066 AD, yep. 1066, the famous year.
The friend, obviously, because they have subpoenaed LE, law enforcement, has subpoenaed the husband's digital apparatus, all of his devices, cell phone, laptop, iPad, you name it. That means all the texts and all the emails. Now, Zach, yes, no, did I hear you say that the husband had frantically contacted friend Cotter to help him get rid of a weapon?
That is correct. He noted how little time he had and needed his friend's assistance.
Is it just me, or does this remind you of the other half of Murder Sheet here?
And I believe he said words to the effect of, I don't have much time.
Correct.
Okay, Brian Fitzgibbons, amateurs, do I have to use the legal phrase, idiot? He put it in a text. Can you help me get rid of a weapon? I don't have much time. Brian, help me out.
Law enforcement was all over that, Nancy. Just like you said, they'd have those digital records. And by October 10th, they were already at his friend James Val Cotter's residence looking at his phone. It would be later determined that the weapon was hidden, but law enforcement has been right on top of this lead right from the get-go.
From the get-go, Brian.
Bucket list for me is to go. I would literally love to go to Russia. That's one of my destinations. I mean, the history of the czars and all the Slavic culture. That'd be awesome.
Brian Fitzgibbons. To Ben Powers joining me, high-profile criminal defense attorney, and you.
Or Ukraine, anywhere around those Slavic ethnic kind of countries. That'd be awesome.
You can find him at legalpowers.com. Ben, thank you for being with us. You know what that tells me? If you're representing this guy, you're in a whole heap of trouble, because James Val Cotter is not going to sit lonely in his cell and not tell where and if he hid what I believe to be a murder weapon. We're going to get that murder weapon and we're going to find prints on it unless they thought to wipe them off. And that weapon is going to belong to the husband. Just a wild guess. What about it, Powers?
Well, so I think it's important to remember that there's two separate investigations going on at the same time. There's the investigation into Suzanne's disappearance, but there's also a separate ATF.
Why does this case remind me so much of Susan Morphew? I know some of the situations here are a little different, but it just seems kind of strange that they're just honing in on the husband here. The both cases. Suzanne Morphew case to me is so bizarre. Like they waited for years and years and years to find her body, right? They finally found her body. They found her body with a horse tranquilizer in it. But yet it's been, what has it been now? Almost a year, and nothing has been done. To the husband, like they haven't rearrested him. It's just so. This case here has that kind of vibe to it here.
Investigation into illegal firearms possessed by Mr. Simpson. And so the tampering with evidence could go to the firearms investigation because.
Have you been to Russia, Charlotte? I'd love to go to Russia, preferably in the summer. But I'll go to Russia any time of year. I don't care. There's just such a steep history in Russia from. All right, sorry.
Right now, there's no connection to the missing of Suzanne Simpson. It's just a firearm.
Don't make me laugh during a murder investigation. The Fed's investigation into the husband regarding the short barrel weapon they found in the home, that investigation is over. He's charged. He's looking at, what did I say, Jackie? 10 to 15 behind bars and a $250,000 fine. They've already got that gun. This is a different gun. He didn't ask his friend Cotter to hide that gun. He asked his friend Cotter to hide another gun. Speaking of, guys, joining me right now, a special guest to whom I earlier alluded, Jeff Horny, longtime friend of both Suzanne and Brad. Brad Simpson, Suzanne Clark.
Did you see the thing the other day? I did. Yeah, I'm scared of Putin too. Yeah, I would want to not be next to him. But I mean, Ukraine, anywhere around there, like even Poland. I'd love to go to Poland. I don't know. The Slavic people really interest me. The deep history there. But did anyone see? I posted something in the community. News Nation came out with a thing. I forget who it was that did it. And she was so excited that they came out with the video of the bridge guy, and she was saying like the 43 seconds of the video is something new, right? Like we learned today that there was more time on the video. There was 4. I've known about the 43 seconds forever. That's not new. That wasn't anything new. Just weird. These people are so weird.
Simpson.
Guy looks like Bill Belichick.
Mr. Horny, thank you for being with us.
Yes, thank you.
I know this is very disturbing to you because you're friends with both Suzanne and the husband, Brad Simpson. When did you first learn that she's missing?
No shit. No. You saw Lennon lying in state? No. Hey, Jenny. Jenny's here. You took your edible and a bug flew up my nose. Let me guess, your dog ate the homework. It's all right, Jenny. We tried calling 867-5309, but we couldn't get through. It's always good to have Jenny here in the house. So thank you, Jenny. It's bigger than New York City. Minus the bug.
From a friend.
This name right here.
And that just called me out of the blue and said, "Can you believe that Suzanne's missing?" And I kind of freaked out and said, "What? I just talked to her. I just." You know.
That's what I was going to say. I haven't seen Miranda Lee around forever. Is she okay? I know she was sick. And then did she get out of the hospital yet? I don't know. Maybe she's angry with me. But I haven't seen Miranda around lately.
You know,
this poor woman, you know, it just sucks. These domestic abuse things. It's just heartbreaking. It's just awful. This, you know, if it does turn out to be the husband, I don't know if it's going to be, but you know, why she had to get involved with that piece of shit, you know, it's.
So that's how I learned, unfortunately.
And what was your immediate thought upon learning she was missing?
Oh, my immediate thought is, where's her pig husband? Sorry.
So not a lot of people know this, but since we're on the topic, Catherine the Great, right? I'm pretty sure everybody knows who Catherine the Great is. She was actually German. She wasn't Russian. Just to let everybody know that.
See,
in fact, she had to change her name because of that, and she really took an effort into learning the Russian language, which is not easy, especially if you're coming from Germany. So I just wanted to throw that tidbit out there. But she was same with the modern day British monarchy. They're German too.
That was my immediate thought. Where is her pig husband? I thought the same
Matter of
thing.
fact, I went to his Facebook page and
Star Media has a great. She was one of my favorite all-time emperors or czars or whatever. She was a fantastic woman. She. What was I just going to say? I forget now. I checked in on Miranda Lee Thursday night, out of the hospital, daily infusions, waiting to hear. Or person. Ugh. A Star Media, right? If you want to watch a good trilogy of the Russian czars, watch a Star Media Romanov dynasty. It does a really good job. It goes through from Michael all the way to I think they all go all the way down to Nicholas, but I could be wrong. But what an amazing series that was. That was awesome.
and I said, "Where are you, Brad Simpson?" And I was the only one on there. So I deleted my comment and moved on, but I couldn't believe that nobody else was wondering where he was.
And at that time, do we now know where was he? Hiding his gun?
The whole story of the false Dimitri, the guy that just kept coming back and coming back and coming back, and they literally shot him out of a cannon back towards Poland. Some of the stuff is just so you can't make that stuff up, right? All right, so let's get out of here. I'll keep following this here. Hopefully they can find her soon. This is they searched that landfill for like a whole week, and they had a hunch. They were out there. I think they had a tip, but they didn't find her out there. So let's do this here. Forensic. Let's do some. Hold on a second. So this is a cold case that got solved. Yeah, it's really good. I'll try to find it and put it in the chat, but description. But it's Star Media's The Romanov Dynasty, and it goes all the way back to Michael. They mentioned a little in there about Ivan the Terrible, but not much. The Time of Troubles and stuff like that. But it's really good. And it's not. I don't think it's very. It's not. It's the word I'm looking for. Biased. It's just a really good. All right. So this is. This is the case of the forensic genealogy identifies Las Vegas mother that was unalived by the unaliver 30 years later. More than 30 years after the unaliving of Melonia White, forensic genealogy, genetics genealogy helped identify the unaliver. Police announced this was done 4 days ago. This is from Las Vegas. So this is the, let's look at this here.
Her death really shattered my mother. That was probably the biggest ongoing thing for our family, was that my mom was just absolutely destroyed.
A family's 30-year wait ends with police solving a cold case. The 8 News Now investigator speaking with that family earlier this afternoon. Thanks for joining us at 5. I'm Vanessa Murphy.
I'm David Charnes. Police cracking this case almost 30 years to the day this young mother disappeared. Let's get right out to 8 News Now investigator Kyle Payne live in Metro with more information about the victim and the person who killed her, Kyle.
Vanessa, David, as far as cold cases go, this one was frozen. A woman disappeared in 1994 after meeting a violent end. Melanie White was just 27 when police found her remains in a wash near the Lake Mead recreation area. She'd been beaten and strangled to death and dragged there by a car. When police put DNA evidence into a computer database, even as recently as 2010, there were no hits until 2024, when another DNA database tied evidence from White's murder to this man. At the time, 38-year-old Arthur Lavery lived near Flamingo in Maryland in Las Vegas. and had once been arrested for battery. Now, this is Lavery before his death in 2021 as a result of complications from COVID. Police say the family the police couldn't make any connection between Melanie White and Arthur Lavery, but her brothers are grateful this cold case is now closed and recalled hearing the good news from police all these years later.
I was traveling for work and I got a voicemail message, and it's obviously, people are getting a lot of texts and voicemail messages kind of because of the political time of the year we're in. And I almost didn't listen to it. And it was Officer Miller, who's standing with us, who had been trying to reach me, in fact. And it was a short conversation that, kind of closed the book on 30 years of not knowing what happened.
Her family said Melanie White had a kind heart, was in.
Do you think Stalin killed him? That's what I think. Another good movie you got to see is The Death of Stalin. That was really good.
Into fashion and was a really nice person. Now, Melanie White also has a son, now 33 years old. Her brothers say they will always miss their sister, and solving this murder will bring a measure of peace to the family. Reporting live at Metro headquarters in Las Vegas, Kyle Payne, 8 News Now.
Kyle, thank you. Arthur Lavery was never brought to.
So that's good news there. I'll play this other one here.
Well, Metro Police closing the books on a 30-year-old murder mystery today, announcing a killer has been identified in a homicide from 1994.
3 decades later, advances in DNA helped crack this case. News 3's Denise Rosh is live at Metro headquarters. And Denise, unfortunately, there will be no trial.
Don't you wish sometimes they could just pick up this guy just to put a stick in him, just to give him,
Yeah, Jim, the suspect in this murder case died 3 years ago, but for the victim's family, there are now answers. And today they are saying thank you to everyone who ever worked this case.
She was a super kind heart. She was just a really nice person.
These cases are so depressing, It's good that they solved it, but so it was genealogy testing again.
That's tragic.
Walter and Jason White say it was a loss that haunted their family, the murder of their older sister, 27-year-old Melanie White. Now, 30 years after her death, Metro Police say DNA links the case to this man, Arthur Lavery.
Very limited information about Lavery due to the fact that he was pronounced deceased in May of 2021 from complications with COVID.
A suspect with a relatively clean record.
We do know that
Let's hope he died a horrible death.
That Lavery attended local high school here in Las Vegas and appears to have grown up here in the Las Vegas area and worked numerous jobs.
The case goes back to August 27th, 1994. 2 hikers found the body of White near Lake Mead. The Otay.
Thank you so much, Jenny, for keeping me updated on that. We miss Miranda for sure. Miranda's just an amazing person. She's always welcome here in this chat. I hope she feels better soon. Definitely thinking of her for sure. Hopefully she can just get well soon. Damn it. I mean, geez, hurry up and get well. Get back in here. I forbid Miranda Lee to be sick anymore.
Autopsy determined she'd been strangled and beaten. With all leads exhausted, the trail went cold. Then in 2021, Metro Police teamed up with the nonprofit Vegas Justice League, which sponsored the case for resubmittal of DNA through.
You guys are also awesome. Like, to stay up this late with me talking endlessly, you guys are amazing people. Like, this is
Othram Laboratory in Houston. And this summer, a positive match was found.
Hairs on your arms stand up.
Lydia Ansel and Justin Wu are co-founders of the league.
The detectives who have been working on this and Othram Lab who've been, finding answers, they're the ones who do all the work. But just to be a small part of that, you just feel the impact of that, and it's overwhelming.
The nonprofit's 9th solved cold case in Southern Nevada.
And as we work through the cold case log, we're hoping to get to newer cases where we can actually get some real, perpetrators off the street one day.
As for the White family,
on
they say they've never heard of Arthur Lavery. But after 30 years, they say they are finally at peace.
I just want to say how grateful we are to the officers of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department for never giving up on finding Melanie's killer. We're very, very grateful for the contributions of the Vegas Justice.
I mean, heart's got to go out to the families. These things, man, they just don't end. It's never over. But at least they know who did it now. And at least they have that, right?
Justice League, whose donation for DNA testing by the police allowed the police to crack the case.
And Melanie White had just moved to Las Vegas a few months before she was killed, and police were never able to determine a link between her and the killer. There is no evidence that they knew each other at all. Reporting live, I'm Denise Rush for News 3. Back to you in the studio.
Just a predator, just an animal. It's always the same old story. It's somebody that no one would have ever thought of. Somebody that just, decided one day that they were going to be take our life. It sucks. All right, so one more, and then I'll get out of here. So let's go way back. So this here is another one of these cold cases here, and this is a really cold case. Girl found in wall of home, ID'd as a 19th century teenager. So this goes way back. Investigators have determined that a skull discovered in the wall of an Illinois home in 1978 was that of an Indiana teenager who died more than 150 years ago. And this was done one day ago. So 150 years ago, she was unalived, and they just determined who it was. They ID'd her. It's amazing. Just absolutely freaking amazing here.
My name is Rob Russell, and I am the coroner in Kane County. We are here today to bring closure to an incident that originated in 1978.
Can you imagine this? 150 years ago. Even I'm not that old.
This case started many years before it was made known to us and is an example of great teamwork. With me today are some of those team members. Next to me, I have Deputy Coroner Gabriella Allison. She is the lead investigator in this cold case. Next to Gabby is Michael Bogan. He is from Othram Incorporated in the Woodlands, Texas. Chief Mazza from the...
Isn't that awesome? 150 years ago. It's Miranda Lee. Miranda Lee's here. We're just talking about you. It's amazing. You must be like telepathic. We hope you're well, Miranda. We miss you in here. I hope you're doing okay. I wish I had some balloons or something, but I don't. So we're just going almost out of here. I just wanted to go over this 150-year-old case here.
The Batavia Police Department. Next to Chief Mazza is Kane County Chair Corrine Parag. And next to Corrine is Batavia Mayor Jeff Shelke. Also in attendance today, we have Kane County Board Member Leslie Juby over here. On November 12, 1978, a citizen, James Skinner of Batavia, was renovating his residence at 239 East Wilson in Batavia. Upon knocking down a wall of the residence, Mr. Skinner discovered what appeared to be a human skull between the studs of the wall. Mr. Skinner immediately called the Batavia Police Department and an investigation was started. At that time, DNA and genealogical records were not as advanced as they are today, so options were limited.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Paula. I'm going a little long tonight. Sorry. Yes, I'm so happy that Miranda's here. Yes, I just hope she's doing well. Who needs balloons when there's all of us? Everybody needs balloons. Balloons are like the thing.
Batavia Police did an incredibly
balloons and creepy clowns, right?
thorough investigation with what they had available at that time. Several outlets were contacted to include national labs, museums, as well as colleges and universities. The most that could be obtained at that time was from a university professor who surmised that the skull was from a young woman around age 20. It was also determined that the skull was from someone prior to 1900. Batavia Police searched records for missing persons and no additional information was revealed. After the exhaustive search and investigation, the case grew cold. On March 10th, 2021, employees of the Batavia Depot Museum were cleaning and making room at the museum when a box containing a skull was found. Not knowing where the skull originated, museum employees called the Batavia Police to report the finding. Batavia PD performed a search of their records and found the original 1978 report. No additional evidence was recovered from the search. The Batavia Police Department then decided to appropriately remand.
You have 8 more days of outpatient IV, but I want to quit. No, you can't quit. You like making caramel turtle brownies, so if that calls for 2 cups butter with 2 cups of MJ butter instead. Nice. That sounds so wonderful. Ugh. Yes, we're all glad Miranda's here. Keep up those IV treatments.
And the skull to the Kane County Coroner's Office for continuation of the investigation. The next day, we continued the investigation, and because the case was minimally over 40 years old, I decided that the cold case team was best suited to investigate this incident. Deputy Gabriella Allison was assigned as the lead investigator. I started the cold case investigative team in July of 2015 to review old cases in
Is this guy sleeping?
response to citizens who had legitimate questions and concerns in relation to previous equivocal death rulings. Upon reviewing existing evidence and chasing down leads for 2 years, we became aware of a company called Othram Laboratory in Texas. This company performed a relatively new investigative technique called forensic investigative genetic genealogy, or we'll call it FIG, F-I-G-G for short. This is the same procedure that was used to catch the Golden State Killer in 2018. By the time we had heard of them, Othram had already solved over 100 cases across the country using this process.
Are you guys okay in here? I hope everybody's okay.
Our hope was that if FIG could solve these cases, then maybe a profile could be established for ours. Although our case was much older, we placed our hope in Othram's process.
All right. So, anyways, the teen girl found in home mall identified. They identified her 19th century teenager. We try to go ahead here. Hold on a second.
Those that are interested. Thomas Doggett from Thomas Doggett Photography, he took the forensic photos of the skull. and 3D Resin Solutions of South Elgin. They 3D printed the replica of that skull, which is right here. This is not the actual skull. This is the 3D printed replica of the actual skull. Because again, the actual skull has been entombed. Forensic artist Natalie Murray, who was able to take the skull, you can get that other, that one, and actually give us a picture of what Esther may have looked like. Is that not cool or what? Very cool, very excellent. I'd also like to thank my chief, Lauren Carrera, my assistant chief, Rebecca Nielsen, and the entire staff. They've all been great. We've all done our part as a good team does.
Like I said years ago, I watch a lot of people. I tend to like Rick Snee. I think Rick Snee's a good guy. I don't always agree with him all the time. I don't agree with myself all the time, let alone somebody else. But I watch other people too. I watch other people that I don't disagree. I'm just not going to watch people that just have. I just don't like to watch people that have all of these panels on where there's just a whole bunch of talking. My brain just can't handle that these days. But I'll listen to just about anything. I just have my own opinions on some of these things, and they just pile up with everybody else's opinions, I guess. I know Rick really stood up when everybody wanted to do the Florida fire thing, which I had a lot of respect for, because it's one of those cases that doesn't get a lot of coverage. And I blame myself for that. I should be doing more about the Florida thing too, but they asked him and he stood up and did it. So anyways, so that's what you look like there.
Lastly, but not least, I want to thank all the citizens who donated resources and said prayers for a successful outcome. Understand that your gifts were put to great use and your prayers were answered. Thank you. I'd like to bring up Michael Vogan from Othram to explain some of the process, because I'm sure you have questions on it.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Michael Vogan. I'm the Director of Account Management with Othram. I'll give just a kind of a cliff notes of who we are. We built Othram. We're actually the first private laboratory in North America that was built exclusively to generate human ID from forensic evidence, be it unidentified human remains, like in this case, or even suspect DNA. We built a complete end-to-end forensic process completely in-house that looks at hundreds.
I just can't do the panel thing anymore. It just I try. I'll stay on there for a couple of minutes or so, but especially when people talk over each other, I can't. I can't do that anymore. I can't. It's not that they're bad channels. It's just I can't. Maybe it's just me and my old age, but I can't do it.
Hundreds of thousands of markers of DNA. Using these markers of DNA, we build these high-performing profiles that can then be used to upload into databases and connect families. And that's what we did in this case. And so I want to thank all these folks for trusting us to assist, and we're happy with the outcome.
All right, so that's her there. I'm gonna get the hell out of here because I've been here 3 hours. My God. Sorry to keep you guys up this late. Flora gets no attention, especially from the people that say they should be paying attention. I'll tell you, I mean, and it's not just so much it's the Flora thing. I take every single one of these cases, and I'm pretty sure everybody does, seriously. I mean, these cases are awful. They're brutal. They're just, each one has their own individual horror to them. Like the Flora fire, Delphi is no different. Evansdale. Thank you, Miranda Lee. Thank you, Jenny. They all need to be solved. I mean, period. But again, opinions are what makes things go around. I don't understand why. People take offense to that sometimes. I just don't. I mean, I've watched really, really beyond crazy creators, but if you get information, if you can get some clarity out there, some information, that's what you got to do. But anyways, what the hell do I know? I don't know much. I appreciate everybody for coming in here. I really do. I appreciate all the people that stay up this late to watch me. That's for sure. But there's a lot of great creators. The Southern Gal, Rick Snay's great. I think Rick Snay's good. Steve, True Crime is an amazing person. And there's a lot of great creators that come in here too. That's why I give people the wrenches. If you have people that have good channels that get the attention out there, get the word out. It's all you can ask for. I mean, that's all I can ask for, because I don't do this for my health. That's for sure. I mean, this stuff is brutal. This poor person died 150 years ago. And you need to get better, Miranda. Thank you, Jenny. So anyways, I'm going to get out of here. You guys are great. Thank you for staying up with me. Jenny, thank you so much for coming in. Miranda, thank you. You got to get better. Heather Brown, you're awesome. Heather Brown was first in here tonight. She's always been here to support me. I appreciate that. Heather's a great person. Miracle Hearts, thank you so much. Miracle Hearts, you're fantastic. Either that, I'd be sitting here talking to myself, and how boring is that? Tom Webster's great too. I watch Tom Webster a lot. Like I said, I've been busy covering all these other cases, other trials, so I haven't been able to get into some of these other lives like I should. FarQ, you're fantastic. Thank you so much for coming in. Jocelyn, you're great. Thank you. Jocelyn's been here for a while too. Thank you. And I don't ask for it. I don't ask people to like. I don't ask people to subscribe. If you want, that's great. If you want to like it, that's fine. But you're never going to hear me begging for that shit. All right. Who else? Charlotte. Charlotte is amazing. Charlotte's an amazing person. It's chat's always better when Charlotte's here. Who else? We'll do a live soon about the history and stuff like that. Paula, you're awesome too. Thank you so much. Paula's got a great channel. Check her out. She can post it in here if she wants. Again, Steve was in here. Steve's great. Steve's Miss Steve and Mrs. Steve are just amazing people, period. I don't agree with everything he says either, but I don't have to. All right. Who else? Pretty sure he doesn't agree with anything I say. Just that's funny shit. All right. I'm probably not going to get to everybody. Gail Hurd is awesome. Gail Hurd, Luis Cuevas, thank you very much for coming in. Both good people. Necessarily Evil is awesome. Charles is awesome. I know Dean Johnson was in here. I don't know where he went. Dean Johnson's great. Dean Johnson's been here from day one. He's awesome. Who else here? I appreciate all the answers tonight, though, to Steve. Thank you. Who else is in here? I don't know who else was in here. I don't think I can. Grandma Sherry was in here. Grandma Sherry's awesome. That Jace, what's her name? Jace Ann was in here. Thank you, Jace Ann. Grandma Sherry was in here. We also had the stalker who was in here. Thank you guys for kicking them out. Appreciate that. Or them out. And that's it. I'm going to get out of here. Everybody have a good night. Thank you so much for all your support. I really appreciate it. You guys don't know how much I appreciate you guys. Exactly. None of us are getting out of here alive. None of us. So you guys have a great weekend. Stay safe. I really appreciate it. I'm going to get out of here, play my outro, and then we are done. But you guys are great. Appreciate it. Have a great and safe weekend. And Miranda, get better. That's it. That's all you got to do. See you later, guys.